Guilty. Turn my mic off. Eddie Yara. You told move. Tell them tanks on the ground. Allow. When I was there, the father raised me up, he raised me up, and all my sins he never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs really gave me up. They heard them take up on the ground, so he had to rank them up. It's new torn, I don't let go. Going with that toy, and we keep going, hey, new torn, John is good, I know he's great. Watch out for the doctrine. When it ain't no fight, it's no the fight. But they believe I'm watching. They didn't train the angel, but they don't understand. They stuck up in their pride. I don't wanna be the man. I'm surrounded by prisons, like my tribe in the prison. Just a light in the jewel, just like fire on the ceiling. I'm waiting on the promises. Eyes on the million. Jumping by money and love. They got your feelings. Lead it. I speak that spirit, cause I breathe it. New Torah moving, they might become the freedom. They see the tanks on the ground, they holler freedom. When I was there, the father raised me up, he raised me up. And all my sins, he never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs really gave me up. They heard them tanks up on the ground, so he had to rank them up. New Torah, I don't know. With that story, they keep going to me. Hey, I put my life up on that line like a bitch so they don't hit me low. I get them hooked, I bet they kill me though. They took my heart, I had to rhythm slow. Moving where the river go, no this not the river flow. I just make them feel the flow. But I don't think they really know. Got on my heart without my sword, it's time to really go. They walking here, man, this really won't make it to the head if you really know. So about to really blow. Believe that. I get to my heart if you need it. Believe that. Never did you know what we had. When I was here, the father raised me up, he raised me up. And all my sins, he never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs really gave me up. They heard them takes up on the ground, so he had to rank them up. New Torah, I don't know. On with that toy, they keep going to me. Hey, new Torah, boom.
Sabbath morning, rise and shine, hit the block, make it hot, shake 'em down. We go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, that's how we rock. Friday night, gotta rest, in the morning, hit the block, shake 'em down. We go at it till about 4 or 5 o'clock. Warfare, got my gear, I'm prepared for the op. And we talking how we walk it, yeah, that's how we rock. Hey, I'm a workaholic, boy, don't play with me. Hey, no breaks, do this till the death of me. I'm with Elohim, careful what you say to me. What you talk. We been the chosen ones, I heard you claim to be. Yeah. What do you got, hey, what do you got? What do you got, this talk is cheap. What do you got, you see me sick? Yeah, we got that remedy. What do you got, hey, what do you got? Heard you got that kill for me. What do you got, cause I need help.
No flim flam, no compromise, no sellout, no control show, no false show. No, we need either this or that. This or that. If you're wrong, you're wrong, and if you're right, you're right. And if that man, if the people down there are...
On the ground, we never running, we just walking around. Spitting scriptures like we busting around. Screaming on them as a thief in the night. Praise y'all, what you need in your life. New Torah moving, trying to bring you to life. Was fishing for them, trying to get them to fight. They walking dead, trying to bring them to life. I got that water dive in his movie. Taking them back, but it ain't Scooby. Takes on the ground, we never run, we walk them down. That's how we do it. Torah move, I say my prayer, hallelujah. The prophets awake, spirit did me what they face. They say that I'm going up, my mind, I better tell them just that I'm staying. I stand on my two, I'm a man. I've been on that block and I kinda let stand. And keep the Torah, baby, we got that plan. If it's down, better give them a hand. Pick them up, cause together we stand. Granny had faith of a mustard seed. Uncle had faith in a bunch of keys. We sting at your blood like a bunch of bees. The prophets had left, blowing their trumpet, we put in that work. They can't get for money. New Torah moving, yeah, we keeping it coming. But the tank on them if he try to go running. We walk them down like we searching for motives. Let out those scriptures, we load up the precepts. And they die right when you've been walking on the cats of Egypt. Who it down? Now we are. Don't let them fool you. I say my praise, hallelujah. Chase on the ground, we never running, we just walking around. Spitting scriptures like we busting around. Screaming on them as a thief in the night. Praise y'all, what you need in your life. New Torah moving, trying to bring you to life. We fishing for them, trying to get them to fight. They walking dead, trying to bring them to life. I got that water dive in his movie. Taking them back, but it ain't Scooby. Chase on the ground, we never run, we walk them down. That's how we do it. Torah move, I say my prayer, hallelujah. We sit in the making. Say the boss of y'all up in the prophets, got them shaking. I need my plate, no shrimp, no bacon. I got my fam by my side like we racing. Had to pull it together cause I'm ripping in the middle, but I see us make it. I told them be patient without destruction, how we save it. Awakened by y'all, we keep praying. Baby, it's so amazing. I got that water that they get thirsty. I got the bull with me. I got that ocean I swim with them sharks and there is no tool with me. Get in my heart, they play the fool with me. Can't solo, got a crew with me. Said, Father, I can't do this, let's shoot with me. Leave me alone and things might get too silly. Only you hit me. Yeah. Chase on the ground, we never running, we just walking around. Spitting scriptures like we busting around. Screaming on them as a thief in the night. Praise y'all, what you need in your life. New Torah moving, trying to bring you to life. We fishing for them, trying to get them to fight. They walking dead, trying to bring them to life. I got that water dive in his movie. Taking them back, but it ain't Scooby. Chase on the ground, we never run, we walk them down. That's how we do it. Torah move, I say my prayer, hallelujah.
Shalom, family. This is Elder Uriah coming to you live, giving all praises and honor to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to our God, our Redeemer, Yahweh, our Abba Father, giving all honor to His Son, Yeshua, Yahweh Shai, Jesus the Christ, as some say, our Mashiach, who showed us how to walk out the Torah circumspectly so that we may have life and that more abundantly, which is given to us by our Heavenly Father. Peace and blessings to you, family. I'm not going to be before you long. This is something that I wanted to get out. I'm trying to strike a match right here. I'm going to be honest right now. I'm trying to light some smoke. I'm trying to start an intellectual, contextual, and analytical debate as much as I possibly can. And when I say debate, I mean in terms of a discussion and some work that I've been studying and that I have been following, just to give us some context, scientifically, anthropologically, geologically, um, uh, and dealing with anthropologic evidence of what we could understand how the information that has been disseminated to us through our wisdom texts that we see in the Torah and different things that we see in the Bible as a whole, whatever side of that you fall upon. Just wanted to give some historical context, because it's often said to us that the Bible is not a book of historical value. Well, I wholly disagree with that. Although it is not written as a book of history in the secular sense, it is a book of history based on its oral tradition. And this is why we have to fight back sometimes and push back against these particular narratives that claim that the Bible itself is not one of history or historical value. But it definitely supports the fact of an oral tradition that has been placed within a written text. And based on that, I will argue that it's definitely should be considered a document or a wisdom text of historical value, right? Now, many people will try to argue back, well, you can't argue the historicity of whether or not Elijah made an axe head float to the top of the river, or you can't make a historical context of whether or not Moses split the Red Sea. You cannot make a historical context of whether or not Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by fire and brimstone, right? But here is the issue with that. No one makes the argument that the assassination of JFK wasn't a historical event. There have been many books written on it, many movies. And if you watch any of the movies based on the assassination of JFK, or if you read any books based on the assassination of JFK, they all agree that the event actually occurred. No one denies that, right? We have the film footage. No one denies that. But even with the visual film footage and the recording of the historical event we have, there is still much controversy as to who was behind it, the nature of the evidence, who actually pulled the trigger, were there conspirators actually riding in the car with him? How many gunmen were in the grassy knoll? Right? Was the mafia behind it? Was it Fidel Castro? Were the Cubans? Was it the Cuban nationalists behind it? Was it Russia? Right? Was it the Illuminati? Each and every reference to the JFK assassination, which was an historical event, based on the writers and the persons viewing it, gives their own perspective or emphasis on what they believe is important to the actual event itself. It never dismisses the fact from either of these authors or filmmakers that the event itself did not happen. And so when we look into the biblical narrative, this is what we are to consider. Shout out to my brother KOT. I appreciate you for being on the panel this morning. Shalom to you, family.
Shalom, peace and blessing, Elder.
Peace and blessings. And I'm kind of glad you popped on, bro, because I really wanted to bring out and talk about the Moses and how he had a very close ties with what we call the Nubians, right? And we're going to show that when we deal with Phineas in the Bible. So I believe he's spoken about in the book of Numbers, right? I think around Numbers chapter 24, chapters 25, somewhere around up in there. We're going to be dealing with Phineas. right? Who was actually given a priesthood. He was actually given a priesthood. And so when we deal with that, we're going to show the connection of Phineas to the Nubians, right? And so first of all, so let me get some shout outs real quick. I'm not going to be before you long at all. I appreciate those of you guys being in the building. Please like, share, and subscribe. Again, shout out to Brother KOT who's joining us on the panel today. The link is in the chat. If anybody wants to come on, this is going to be a very brief lesson. So it's, I'm welcome to some open discussion on it. Again, shalom to Amos Jewelry. I appreciate you as well and your contributions that you've made to the channel and to this show. I really appreciate that and your wisdom and then your willingness to share. There's some things I'm going to bring out on the lesson I taught yesterday that our good brother Amos Jewelry, as a matter of fact, I'll ask that question later, has shared with us in regards to the lesson that we spoke on yesterday, right? So we're going to be dealing with that at a later time. Going to be preparing that. Our lovely sister Cassandra Mensa is in the building as well. Again, we're still praying. Prayers up to you, sis, for speedy recovery and full health, that your health be restored, right? That the Most High give you the full activities of your limbs and everything that you need is restored to you in full health. We appreciate, yes, still your support of being here during your challenge. The souls of our ancestors, I appreciate you, sis. Thank you for joining us again today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for being with us on today. Shout out to you as well in the building. Man, the silent scholar is in the building today, Indigenous Black man. So please be prepared to take notes. He's going to put some information in the chat that's going to be very, very useful. I know to this lesson already, as he's already began to post, right? The term Hyksos means foreign rulers. Absolutely. And so we're going to be dealing with that. We're going to show some different information based on some scholars and some of their breakdown. We're going to be dealing with that as well. And so we're going to really get into it. And let me post this really quickly, right? This is very important. The souls of our ancestors, she's right. May Yah grant you total healing. Sister Cassandra Mensa, of the body. I speak it as if it is already so. And based on her belief, it is already so. So thank you for, I'm sure you guys touched and agreed with this in spirit. And so it is already so. So we appreciate that. Thank you for that powerful prayer. Trust me, family, you don't often hear about that on these channels and these platforms, but trust me, prayer works. Prayer works. And I'm going to have to, and I maybe Brother KOT and I get on that topic and dealing with the power of prayer. So we're going to have to deal with it, and maybe we can get some of our sisters to come on as well. But we're going to be dealing with the practicality and the power of prayer. The power of prayer. It is important. It is important. And so people don't realize often, because we have so much foolishness going back and forth and so much other things going back and forth, but that is a part of your spiritual conditioning. It's a part of your spiritual lifeline, right? It is a way, listen, it is a way to purge and cleanse your consciousness. The power of prayer. It is a form of meditation. Right? It's a form of meditation. Also, it tells us the scripture tells us we are to make our prayer and supplication. Supplication is your petition. What are you petitioning the Most High for? Right? You are to submit those things unto the Most High Yah. Those things are powerful. And so we really need to do that. And again, and this is how I believe this is always how the Most High works. I will be asking what things should I teach on and what things we should get into. And then here we are, the souls of our ancestors. She comes with the most powerful prayer for another, right? And there's a blessing in that. When you sow a positive prayer for healing into the life of another, right? Then that is a seed that you've sown that'll come back upon you and your family with an abundance of healing. Why? Because you sowed a seed of prayer. Here, watch this. When you sow a seed, let's take an apple seed. You sow an apple seed, plant it in the ground, water it, nurture it. When it grows back, you don't just get one apple on a vine, you get an apple tree. So the importance of sowing seed and reaping a harvest is a law, as I talked about outside of this channel yesterday, is a law, is a principle that does not change. The law of what? Sowing and reaping, right? So especially when you sow in good soil on good ground, and people don't realize that prayer is also a seed. We're going to be talking about that. So peace and blessings to y'all family for that as well. My brother said, he said facts, but a bit of faith is necessary. It absolutely is. Prayer and faith, you cannot split the hairs on it. Prayer and faith, you cannot split the hairs on it. They are one and embodied in the same, right? They're one and the same. Prayer is simply just a form of faith. It's faith encapsulated in our words and in our thoughts, right? But again, in faith and prayer is just like any muscle that you have. If you don't work it, if you don't utilize it, it becomes weak. It breaks down, right? And when things that come upon you are heavy and you cannot lift it and you seem overburdened, you can't lift it. I guarantee you one of the reasons why is because your prayer life, or you're not exercising your prayer in faith. And if you're not exercising your prayer in faith, when things come upon you, situations in your life seemingly that are difficult for you to handle, right? Then you need to involve yourself more in prayer. You need to operate, work that faith muscle, work that prayer. That's just the practicality of it, right? So we're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking about different types of prayer, right? I think people don't really understand prayer as a whole. Listen, Thanksgiving is a prayer. Thanksgiving is a prayer. I'm not talking about the holiday, right? It's a prayer, because ultimately, what is it? It is a sacrifice, right? Right? So let's talk about that. And I'll give my brother KOT. Hopefully he wants to deal with that. And anybody else that wants to be involved with that, please let me know. We will do that hopefully coming up this week. Most High will. So what I want to get into is a brief lesson. I don't have a lot of time. We're probably going to stop right at the 12 o'clock or maybe 11:45 mark or somewhere around there. It's just going to be brief. I just wanted to share some information just to light a match. I'm trying to get somebody's attention, right? Right? So let me share my screen. And Brother KOT, anytime you want to jump in, brother, just let me know, but I'll break out my presentation really quickly. It is more
Okay.
Yep. Anytime you want to deal with that. Let's see here. We make this a little bit bigger for the family to see. Let me take this down real quick, because I already know what it is. Give me 1 second. All praises, all praises. All right, there we go. And again, the link is in the chat. All right, and here we go. And you guys see what it is. The Nubian Hyksos, right? And this is what I'm entitling this presentation really quickly. The Asiatic Kushite origins of the ancient Hyksos rulers of Kemet. And I hope indigenous black men and anybody else who can share, Brother KOT, as well as Afro-Asiatic, if you're out there listening, brother, I need you to hit the panel. If you're out there, Brother D-Red, if you guys are listening, hit the panel. I would love you guys' input on this as well. This is sort of just an impromptu thing that I've been looking at and really want to get into more heavily. There's some things in here that I need some educating on and I've been studying, but we're going to get through it, right? We're going to have a solid discussion on it. So the Nubian Hyksos, right? Or the Hyksos, or some say in ancient Kemet, the Hyksos, right? And so we're going to be dealing with that on today. Now, this information that I've gleaned is based a lot of what I've been reading from Dr. Chancellor Williams, the destruction of the Black civilization. And I've been looking for my book. I done had it all week. Can't find it. I set it down somewhere. I was going to read it. I think it's in my car, though. I was going to read something out of it. But also, it's based on the research that Dr. Clyde Winters has done. And the thing with Dr. Clyde Winters is oftentimes he's talked about in reference as sort of like a fringe scholar, right? Because he goes against the grain of what most consensus of scholars would do. And so when you're on that edge, oftentimes your information is overlooked, or it's suppressed, or it's not giving our as in being that valid or important to the topic that you're speaking on, because what you're postulating goes against the grain of consensus. Let me see. Amos, you're absolutely you're welcome. I would love to have you on the panel and dealing with the topic of prayer. Absolutely. And so again, in dealing with Dr. Clyde Winters, oftentimes his work, simply because it goes against the grain of what many feel is in the minority or the minimalist sort of type of understanding. He's not from the school of those that carry this sort of this European type of anti-Semitic understanding of the influences that were going on in ancient Kemet during various dynastic periods that we often hear talked about in this way. So let's get into it. It says, through the eyes of Kemet, identify the Hyksos, right? There are Egyptian texts where the Hyksos call themselves Khas, Khas, right? Or Kushite, right? The Egyptian textual evidence includes the primary evidence includes the Turin Royal Canon, where the Hyksos were styled Hyksos, the same name they called the other Kushites in Nubia during the Old Kingdom. During the New Kingdom, the Kushites were still being called Kash, the same name the Hattians called themselves, i.e. Kashka, or rulers of Kushites. Right now, I had prepared to do a debate in regards to were the Hittites in antiquity, would they have been considered black or Cushitic? And this is where I really began to see a lot of this dealing with the Horite Hebrews and dealing with different people in these lands in the specific areas, right? And so I began to see sort of these connections with these people, especially in regards to Nubia. Now, I know our good brother Smash Rockwell, he goes in on the Nubians and, arches up and, they're in the Magi Nubians and all that. But there is an element that our good brother Smash rarely deals with, and that is the Asiatic influence of the Nubians, right? That is the Asiatic influence of the Nubians. And so oftentimes when people have a specific agenda, they will see the information there, but they won't go into it. Why? Because it doesn't follow their particular paradigm, right? And so they will withhold things that, you know what, indigenous black man, that is a good question, and I actually do. And I have to see if I can set that up. I actually do have a call-in number. Let me figure that out. Give me a few seconds. I actually do have a call-in number. Let me get that set up as I'm talking. But again, so I just wanted to really go into some of what I found, especially more specifically in Dr. Claude Winter's work, right? And so the first four rulers of the Hyksos called themselves Hyksos, right, on their seals, right? And the monumentals of the door jambs, right? From a particular area called Avaris. And many may have heard me mention Manfred Tech and his work down in Avaris, which is where we know biblically is the same area that the Israelites, that Joseph, a son of Israel, or Yusuf, a son of Israel, bid the Pharaoh of the time, who I believe was a Hyksos Pharaoh, one of these Hyksos Nubians. This is what I believe. One of these Hyksos Nubian kings or rulers, right, at the time, that the Israelites and Joseph were allowed to go down into the area near Avaris. The Bible calls it the city of Goshen, or Koshem, but we know once we look on a map, it is very close to the area, which is what we know are called Avaris. And during Manfred Tech's excavations in Avaris, he found some things that are more prominent or more closely related to Asiatic culture, right? Dealing with the bones of the long-faced sheep that were being raised in that area. We know the Israelites, or proto-Israelites, I should say, and Israelites dealt with the long-faced sheep. That was a herd of a sheep that was specifically raised by them to a degree. We found many bones of that. We found the structures for the four corner rooms that was specific style of that time, only of Asiatic people and persons down in that particular area in Avaris that was being excavated by Manfred Tech. Now, Manfred Tech does not go as far as to say that those were Israelites with the things that he found down in there. But if you look at the material culture of the Israelites, the proto-Israelites, I should say, that we would see a lot of these same evidences, right? So again, this is a primary contemporaneous ancient Near Eastern literature or epigraphic documentation, right? The evidence indicating that they called themselves, or the Hyksos called themselves Kosh, right? Kosh, or Hykakasu, right? Or Kosh, or Kush, or Kush, right? And the Hyksos, we know, they worshiped Ra. They did worship Ra, right? Because they did take on and culturate what we would call the Egyptian culture or pantheon of deities, but they also introduced their own, specifically Set, right? Set or Seth, right? Which many people try to relate to Satan or or Hashatan or the jokester or different things like that. People, I think the consensus is now flowing to the fact that that was brought into the ancient Kemetic pantheon of deities, right? Set or Seth was brought in by Asiatic or foreigners, right? But let's continue real quick. So through the eyes of Kemet, identifying the Hyksos. The first four rulers of Hyksos call themselves Hyksos on their seals in the monumental door jam. And I just reread this earlier, right from Avaris. And here are those seals. Now, let me see. I don't know if I can really make it bigger for people to see it. But these are their seals, right? I know these are two ankhs down here. And I know this little thing here is an ib, right? And I have sort of this working theory, right? You know, clearly I could be incorrect, but as we see, I have a working theory here. This is another thing here. You see this little circle here? It's like it's a little bit different from an ankh, but it's kind of an ankh. This little circle thing here with this little bar under here, if I'm not mistaken. This is the same symbol you see among many of the ancient Near East, right? When you look into a lot of the carvings, they have this little symbol that they're carrying, especially in the Assyrian or Sumerian context. You'll see this little symbol here, right? In sort of ancient Near Eastern folklore, you'll see that used right there. And again, like I say, you see this little ib here seems to be encapsulated in the cartouche right here. It is my working theory now that actually I'm working on that when you see this ib sign encapsulated in the name of these rulers, that is somehow indicative of these Asiatic or Semitic rulers, right? Because what you will see is I believe it means the heart of Ra, or Ib Ra, or Ibre, right? Or if you actually look at it, you almost can get a term of Eber, right, out of that Ib Ra, if someone's pronouncing it incorrectly, who's a foreigner, right? So I'm just kind of working on that right now. Don't know if it holds any weight right now, but that's what I'm working on. It's just something that I'm interested in looking into. So are the Hyksos African Kushites or Asians? The Hyksos were Kushites that originated in the Nile Valley, not the Levant or Anatolia. This is based on some of Clyde Winter's work, and also Dr. Chancellor Williams. Now, some will say their work may be outdated or antiquated, but I don't see any real pushback. I hear a lot of people who may disagree, but I don't see the evidence that supports that this is not the case, right? And so here you see a Hyksos king, Apepi the first, right? Or the Greek king Apophis, right, of the 16th dynasty, right? And we know during the 16th dynasty, this is one of the dynasties that they attribute to the Hyksos rule, right? And so here he is, right? And what you'll see is they're clearly Nubian people. Well, what do you see? You see more higher cheekbones. You see more of slender nostrils, and I'm just looking at phenotypes right now, and you start to see a difference in the way that the sphinx or the heads or the headdress of these Nubian kings differ from those of more native Egyptians or people of Kemet, right? So let's look. Now, this is where I'm really starting to get into some of the research. Again, this is just my working theory. So most research based on Clyde Winter's work. I'm making that very clear. So most researchers accept the contemporary meaning of gardeners, and gardeners, that's Alan Gardner, right? Who categorized a lot of the ancient Kemetic hieroglyphics and gave it sort of this or perfected sort of this numbering system to identify it, so that you can sort of read it. We often hear our brother Smash talk about the TLA. Well, before the TLA they had Alan Gardner, right? And some others, right? And so this is the references of the hieroglyphs that they use. So if Alan Gardner's work in symbol N25 as the rulers of foreign lands, as our brother indigenous black man already posted about the Hyksos or the Hyksos, meaning foreign rulers or rulers of foreign lands, and not Kush, right? This is what Alan Gardner says. But this was not the first meaning assigned to the sign, right? Right? John Breasted, an Egyptologist, right? That most people in, Afrocentrists simply try to dismiss his work simply because they try to say that his work was wholly racist. It's because he was a racist, you have to dismiss the work that he found. But but if you actually read Breasted said, listen, I know what I'm finding. And I know who we should be attributing this to, but the people who are funding me won't allow me to really present it that way. If you really study what John Breasted was saying, right? So John H. Breasted translated N25 as Negro land. That is the first translation of what we see of this particular sign involving the Hyksos, right? Or the Hyksos, right? And you see here the staff, right? Symbolizing ruler, right? And then you see like the three crowns or the three hills or whatever you call it, or that of Kash, right? Or H3, the H3, right? Or Kash or Kish or Kush, right? In 25, John Breasted first translated this as Negro land before Alan Gardner translated it as rulers of foreign lands and not Kush. I just wanted to keep that in mind. And this is based on, again, Clyde Winter's work, right? So let me read this as well. It says, if Alan Gardner's N25 symbol meant rulers of foreign lands, we would read the Wenai inscription as the following, right? His Majesty made war on the Asiatic sand dwellers, and His Majesty made an army of many 10,000s in the entire southward to Elephantine, and northward to Aphroditepolis, right, named after Aphrodite, or based on Osiris, in the northland of both sides, entire in the stronghold, and in the midst of the strongholds among the earth rulers of foreign lands, the Mazoi rulers of foreign lands, the Yam rulers of foreign lands, and the Wawat rulers of foreign lands, among the Ka or the Ka rulers of foreign lands, and in the land of Tema. Let's go down further, right? Now let's look at all of that, right? Are the Hyksos African, Kushites, or Asians? Semantically reading N25 as rulers of foreign land is unintelligent. This is based on Clyde Williams' work. He says, for example, Wawat, rulers of foreign lands, is incorrect, right? Because Wawat was the name of a nation, not a king. As a result, Hyksos or Hyksos was used to identify the nationality of the Wawat or the Ka and other Kushite or other Kushites. And here he gives the map here. The Wawat, Yam, Magi are not place names. They are the names of Kushite or Nahesi tribes. And this is why I brought out in the scripture that we even see this name being closely associated with Moses and the Israelites, especially in the book of Numbers. And let me get there really quickly. Just to show you that term in the scripture, that Nehesi, right? Let's get that. Really quickly. Let's deal with that. I'm going to show you guys what we just read here. And we're going to show you. Let me share my screen here. Right? And look at what it says. Right? And this is encyclopedia.com. Right? But we're dealing with the name Phineas is how it's read in the English translation. And what does it say? Hebrew name of three biblical figures. Number one, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest. So we know Aaron was a high priest. So we know that he was the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, right? Which makes him a Levite, right? And so Aaron, the priest, watch this in Exodus chapter 6, verses 25, in the genealogies of Ezra chapter 7, verses 1 through 5, and First Chronicles chapter 5, verses 28 through 41, chapter 6 through 35 through 38, when the Israelites suffered a plague in punishment for indulging in the orgiastic Baal Peor cult. Phineas slew Zimri, son of Selu, and Cosbi, daughter of Zur, a prince of Midian, and thereby stopped the plague. By virtue of this act, Phineas and his descendants were granted a pact of priesthood for all time. Most people don't really understand it, and this is my reference here in Numbers chapter 25. Numbers chapter 25, verses 1 through 18, right? And let me show you that here. We're going to go to that in the scripture. So you guys now understand why we're making, starting to see why now we're making this connection. Sarah said the link is actually in the chat. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I'm going to drop. Let me grab this link because I do want my brother Sarah Sand to come in really quickly. And I just asked that he wait till I get through most of the presentation. But I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for anyone else who wants it, because I'm not going to be on long. Here we go. Come on now. Shalom. Peace and blessings, Yashar, General Yashar. Yo, Yasharal. I see you. Peace, family. The link is in the chat. And let me do something right here. The link is in the chat right now. But let me get back to our scripture. So let me go back. Let me share my screen. Right. So we should be seeing Numbers 25, verse 1. Right. And here we go. We're just going to start at verse 7. This is Numbers 25, verse 7. Numbers 25, verse 7. It says, and when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand and went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. And those that died in the plague were 24,000. Some say that's a contradiction when you read other passages of scripture, but it's easy to be dealt with when you actually understand what Paul says about it. But again, the zeal of Phinehas, Numbers chapter 25, verse 10, it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, have turned my wrath away from the children of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consume not the children of Israel in my jealousy. Wherefore say, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace. Now I'm going to ask someone, did not the Most High already have a covenant with the children of Israel? And this is why his wrath was kindled against them, because they had broke that covenant. Then why is it so then we see that Phinehas has to be given, although it says he's from the line of Aaron through Eleazar, why does it say he has to be given a covenant of peace? If, in fact, he was already an Israelite or a natural born Israelite. But I'm gonna continue. Wherefore say, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace, and he shall have it, and his seed after him, even the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. How many of folks out here we hearing in that talk about they're an Israelite and then from Israel? How many of them that we hear claim to be of the priesthood of Phinehas? He has an everlasting priesthood. Everybody wants to be a priest of Aaron, a Levite, right? Everybody wants to be of the priesthood of Aaron. But here it says Phinehas is given an everlasting priesthood because he was zealous for his God and made an atonement for the children of Israel, right? It says, now the name of the Israelite that was slain, even that was slain with the Midianitish woman, was Zimri, the son of Salu, the prince of a chief of house among the Simeonites. Now he slew someone of the tribe of Simeon, right? And the name of the Midianitish woman that was slain was Cosbi or Cosbi, the daughter of Zur. He was head over a people and a chief of a house in Midian, right? But that's enough there. I wanted to just touch on to show that we have here in the scripture, right, early on in the book of Numbers, What we have is an attestation to Phineas, and attestation to also Phineas having been given a covenant of peace by the Most High and a everlasting priesthood. Everlasting, right? So for those of you who are literal with the scripture, right, that means that there is a priesthood of Phineas that still should exist today, right? Let's look at something really quickly, right? And here it is right here. You see the name Phineas.
Strong's H6372. Pinchas.
Now you see how they pronounce that there in the Hebrew? Pinchas, right? Watch this.
Strong's H6372. Pinchas.
And here it is right here in the Hebrew. Pinchas, noun, a proper noun, right? Here we have it here. Now let's go here. And let's see what they say here.
Strong's H6372. Pinchas.
Right. So watch this. In the outline of biblical usage, Phineas or Pinchas means mouth of brass, a son of Eleazar, grandson of Aaron. Right? He was a grandson of Aaron. It says his zealousness for the Lord averted a plague of Israel and gained him the promise of the Lord of an everlasting priesthood in his family. A priest and the son of the priest Eli and the father of a helper Ezra. Those are three different people, right? But it says here, apparently from a variation of mouth of a serpent. Pinchas, right? The name of three Israelites, right? Now watch this. It says proper name, Egyptian, Pe-Nahesi. Y'all see that? Pa-Nahesi. It's an Egyptian name, Pa-Nahesi, which means what? The Negro. According to life. So as we go back in the sources that I brought out earlier, based on Clyde Winter's work, when John H. Breasted first described the hieroglyphs for the Hyksos or the Kushite, right? When he first describes it in symbol N25, he says that this is equivalent to Negro land. He says it means Negro land. When we go back to Alan H. Gardner, who later comes back and says, no, N25 is referring to rulers of foreign lands. Why does Alan Gardner change it to rulers of foreign lands from Negro lands when we clearly see the term Nehesi being used, or the Negro? According to Layoff, what they say right here, Alof, right? Why is it changed there, right? Let's look at this real quick. It says mouth of brass, or some say the mouth of the serpent, right? So let me go back. I hear somebody just popped on. That might have been my brother, Saracen. Yep, that's him right there. Peace, family. What's good with you?
Damn, you going in with this? This is crazy. I didn't know you was coming with this.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. Hey, Afro-Asiatic, I called for you, man. I'm gonna put the link in the chat again. Because I pray you show up today, Afro-Asiatic. And Sarah saying you coming in on this too is crazy. So I appreciate you coming in on this too, so we can really get to some truth on it. We're not talking about the dogma. We just want to talk about the people in those lands and what was going on based on the information that we see, right? And and see, this is what I wanted to deal with, because we often always, and like I said, I'm not as in depth in the information when it comes to the Nubian and the Magi, as y'all might hear Smash Rockwell is, but trust me, I'm coming with it, right? But at the end of the day, what I have found is that there is another group of people, another Asiatics, that are constantly identified with these Nehesi that we see in the biblical text, that are ingrained at the roots of this proto-Israelites or Israelites movement, as we people as we see. And so oftentimes that's overlooked, right? And so as I was studying, I came across Clyde Winter's work, which is what I'm referencing today in this presentation. All of his work on it, not all of his work, but in synopsis, to show the connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start turning this over to you guys on the floor real quick so you can hear. But let me go back into this presentation so I can finish this out, because like I said, it's very short. It's very short. I just wanted people to really begin to talk about it. So let me see that. So again, this is why I asked the question, right? Because Clyde Winter in his information says that Wawat, the rulers, and listen, I may be pronouncing these Kemetic terms incorrectly, right? I'm getting there, right? This is not my forte, but I understand what I'm reading, right? So let's not play the game. See, he ain't pronounced correct. Listen, if someone is out there who can come up here and correct me about how to use the name, I will change it, right? I have no problem with that. But let's get into it. Let's not deny what we see here, right? So he posits that Wawet, rulers of foreign lands, is incorrect, because Wawet was the name of a nation, not a king. So it could not be referring to rulers of foreign lands, but it's more closely connected to what John H. Breasted said from the very beginning when we see this symbol, before Gardner changed N25 to mean rulers of foreign lands. It's more closely related to what? Negro land. Negro land. And this is what we see when we go back here. Let's go back real quick, right? And look at what we see the name Pinhas means, or Phineas means, right? In the biblical text, in the book of Numbers, right? The grandson of Aaron, the Levite priest, the son of Eleazar. It says here, the proper masculine name for Phineas in the scripture, that the Most High gave an everlasting covenant to, of peace, and a priesthood to. Its name is called Egyptian. It's an Egyptian name, right? Penahesi, right? Or the Negro, according to law, right? And so this is what we're looking at here. Now, the issue that many want to argue is that when these things were done or written, that the information is antiquated, right? So Loth created that he gave that understanding of the Negro about in 1868. Then you had another variation done in 1871. Then you had another variation of it in 1897. And then you start see it continues to go on to other various different translations and different things like that. But here we clearly see that Panahesi is an Egyptian term or Egyptian name, which means the Negro or the Nubian. And I'm going to show you that as well, right? Let's get back into that. I want to show again, and let me share this tab. Let's go back, just going through the encyclopedia, right? It says, again, the memory of this event, talking about what Phineas did, right? It says is reflected in later sources in Psalms 106 and 30 and 31. Ecclesiasticus 45, 23 and 24, and in First Maccabees 2 and 26. It says Phineas or Panahesi, or I say the Nubian, right? Or the Negro is encountered next in the war against the Midianites when equipped with a sacred utensil or javelin. He was sent by Moses to act as a priest in the campaign. At the period of the conquest, Panahesi, or the Nubian, together with 10 of the princes of the tribes that had settled west of the Jordan, formed a delegation to Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh. Why the half tribe of Manasseh? Because they were half Kemetic, they were half Egyptian, and half Israelite, right? These are the sons of Joseph, or Joseph, the youngest of the sons of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? Whose sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, were adopted as sons by their father Israel in his later age. So we actually have, go ahead. Somebody
real
speak.
quick, Yara. So
not just
on
real quick,
back on Phineas real quick though. I'm gonna say you on point, right? You on point with how they pronouncing it in the translation, right? Because for the simple fact that when you look at the name of the serpent, of the snake in Genesis, you're gonna get that same Nehes.
Yes,
and you already said that. What was that for Phineas? Is the name translates to the serpent?
Yep, the mouth it's either the mouth of the brass, but they were referring to the brass snake or the serpent that Moses had created. So they understood that his name was reflective of the serpent, the mouth of the serpent or the serpent. So you're absolutely correct. Yep, you're absolutely correct. So I appreciate that, brother. What you got, KOT?
Peace and blessings, Elder Yara. You can hear me? Is my mic on?
Peace and blessings to you, family. Shalom. Yes, sir. You good?
I'll just make sure my mic was on. Oh, no, I wanted to add into the earlier part when you was talking about the customs and code.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Egypt doctrine, but they don't get it. See, because they'll run back to the origins. Egypt was 6,000, 7,000 years old. But we know that Kemet didn't start to 3,100. Some may say 3,200 BC. Now, we go with the biblical narrative because we know that all Ham, Shem, and Japheth all originated from Sumeria after the so-called flood. We know they was in Mount Ararat. They lived in Sumeria. And we have historical narratives showing and artifacts showing how they came from Mesopotamia, Mizraim, and they moved to Egypt. So they migrated from Sumeria. So their customs were already Sumerian and Semitic languages. They spoke Semitic languages and Sumerian. When they moved in, their language changed to Nubian languages. So they was taking on all other cultures that pre-existed there. And they was taking on some of their symbols, but they brought in Sumerian culture and languages. So they're already dead with their doctrine. And you're putting together after they've been living there and all the connections. But they originate from Sumer.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that 1,000%. And I wanted to read this right here. I really wanted to read this entire thing, but I'm going to start right here. It says many scholars, and this is just an encyclopedia, right? Dylan, just look up the name Phineas or Panahesi, right? In the encyclopedia, it says many scholars believe these verses not to be part of the body of the narrative, but additions by a later editor. It is related of Phineas that he had been superintendent of the gatekeepers, 1 Chronicles 9 and 20. This is probably to be understood as indicating that Panahesi or Phineas was considered to have been their patron. Panahesi's death and burial place are not recorded, though in Joshua chapter 24, verses 33 does state that Eleazar, the son of Aaron, died. And they buried him in the hill of his son, Phineas or Panahesi. Where is that? In Mount Ephraim. This passage may have been reworked by a later editor. The formula is surprising since the usual statement about the dead is that he was buried with his fathers. E. Auerbach believes that originally the site was known as the grave of Phinehas or Phineas, and that Eleazar's name was attached to it as a result of a later tradition. Indeed, according to both Jewish and Samaritan tradition, Phinehas or Phineas is also buried at this hill. Eusebius, right? In the onomastic, onomacrostic, I know there's something like that, onomacrostic, or omnon, how they put it, 2 and 14, identified the location as being 5 miles or 8 kilometers from Japhna on the way to Shechem. So it says, see Aaron for genealogy of the house of Aaron, a family of priests named Gershom, directly related to Phineas, right? And Gershom was the name of one of Moses' sons, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was directly related to Phineas, existed as late as the time of Ezra, returning with him from the exile, right? This is when Darius allowed the Israelites to go back into Jerusalem, and they began to rebuild the wall. And then Ezra went back and he sort of told those Levites, get rid of all your foreign wives and whatever, different things like that. So it's talking about that particular time when Ezra returned from exile, and that's Ezra chapter 8, verse 2. So according to First Esdras 5 and 5, the priest Jeshua, son of Jehozadak, and Joachim, son of Jeshua, were also associated with the house of Phineas. You see what I'm saying? So we know that, and then throughout, we still began to talk about one of the priests of the sons of Eli at Shiloh, whose brother was the brother of Hophni, right? 1 Samuel 2 and 35 talks about Hophni and Phineas, the father of Eleazar, who was one of the assistants of Merimoth, son of Uriah, the priest. This priest weighed the sacred vessels bought by those who returned with Ezra from the exile, right? He was also connected to Phineas. The name Phineas Phinehas, here it is, derives from the Egyptian Panahesi, meaning what? The Nubian. And they weren't just referring to his skin color. So you mean to tell me there's only 2 explanations here? This has to be talking about an Asiatic root of Nubian stock being among the Israelites. They're not speaking about in terms of Nubian as in phenotypically speaking. They're talking about the actual bloodline, the actual root, the ethnic background of these people. Had to be a form of Asiatic Nubians that existed, right? Again, the Egyptian term Panahesi, meaning the Nubian, which was also employed as a proper name in Egypt, watch this, or in Kemet, especially for residents of Nubia. Right? So we know who these people, you understand? We know who he's talking about here. And then it begins to go on. They talk about him in the Haggadah, which is a Jewish commentary. They talk about Phineas as well, right? And they go on into a different understanding of it. And I won't read through it all for the sake of time, because I really want you guys to be able to get to get out your commentary on this and understanding as well, right? It even talks about Phineas. Remember the halakha, that he was that he who cohabits with a Gentile woman is struck down by zealots, right? The Sanhedrin 9 and 6. So you can see how clearly and how prominent Phineas is regarded among the Israelite community, even among the Sanhedrin, right? Even among the those priests, right? Even all the way through the book of Maccabees, he's prominent in that understanding. So when people start to talk about, oh no, there's no people of color dealing with or had any influence in this book or outside of this book, well, now we really have to talk about and discuss Phineas, because it tells us in the book of Numbers that he was given a covenant of peace and an everlasting priesthood in Israel. That means it never goes away. But this is why I argue and push back against people like my good brother Tazaria when they talk about, oh, we ain't them Africans and we ain't connected to Africa and those people were there. Well, who are these people? How do you explain Phinehas's priesthood? Huh? How do you do that? You can't. You can't make that argument.
Don't we connect Zadok priesthood to them also?
Absolutely. Because Zadok, that's and if I'm not understanding this, I haven't done this study in a while, but Zadok, this is where we get the term Sanhedrin comes from, or the Sadducees, right? It comes out of that term, the Zadok. That's where we get Sadducee from, right? And Sadducee, that was court, was held, was made up. That's what made up the Sanhedrin court, right?
Yeah, so that's part of the Essene community.
Right, absolutely. And so let me just read this part. It says, the rabbis could not agree whether Phinehas had acted with or without Moses' permission. The issue at stake being whether a disciple could, in an emergency, decide a case without reference to his master. That was dealing with Sanhedrin issues in Haggadah. It says, in the view and unequivocal biblical approval of Phinehas' deed, in Numbers 25, the legitimacy of the act could not be seriously questioned. Indeed, no less than 12 miracles were said to have been wrought in aid of Phinehas. Otherwise, he could not have been successfully accomplished his mission, right? So even the rabbis, moreover, interpreted Psalms 106 and 30 in the sense that Phinehas had argued with God concerning the injustice of inflicting a plague on Israel, which carried off 24,000 people. Numbers 25 and 9, when the angels wanted to push Phinehas away. Now, some say, well, there's some attestations that says Moses killed 10,000, right? That Moses killed 10,000. But if you see, he killed 10,000 of the leaders out of the 24,000. So it's not a contradiction there for you smarty yard folks out there. Don't try it. We got you on that one, right? So there's no contradiction there, right? So I just wanted to read this and go through this. This is just the encyclopedia dealing with the term Phinehas or Phinehas. It clearly identifies him as a Nubian. Some will say, well, he could, or a Levite living in the land of Nubia, therefore considered or to be called the Nubian. That's an argument as well. People are going to make that argument. Like I say, I see the arguments. But you're going to be very hard pressed to prove that, because it wouldn't make sense for the Most High, because of his righteous act of Phinehas, to say, I'm going to give you a covenant of peace when Israel was already given a covenant of peace. I'm going to give you an everlasting priesthood when he was already a Levite, right? And people say, well, wasn't the Catharites or the Kothites or whatever, I believe it was Cathar, wasn't he given a priesthood as well? Yes, but it doesn't separate him as being anything other than an Israelite. We clearly have to ask the question about Phinehas's understanding who Phinehas was and actually can be identified as a Nubian. It's a reason why the scripture identifies him as a Nubian, right? They could have just identified him as just any other Israelite, as just a grandson of the tribe of Aaron, as they did, but they placed an emphasis on him being a Nubian, which is why he's named Phinehas. Because I guarantee you, in some way, form, or fashion, that probably was not his real name. But according to as they understood and as they wrote and gave us to understand people and who they were, your names were symbolic in scripture. All names in scripture are symbolic as well, right? It has a meaning. It stands for something, right? So him being called the Nubian is undeniable in the scripture. So let me go back. Just let us get back in here. I'm going to share my screen again. So let me go back down. I wasn't. I was right here. It says, so where Wawat or the Wawat or the Yam Magi are not place names. They are the names of Kushite or Nahesi tribes, or the Pa-Nahesi tribes, or the Phineas tribes, in that the Winnie inscriptions, their kings were called Hekakasu. Kasu, meaning Kushite, right? And here I have this Winnie inscription here. Inscription, I think I made a big one on one of the next pages. So you can see it here when you look it up. Look up the Winnie inscription, right? And it talks about the Nahesi lands or the Negro lands, as John H. Breasted originally translated it. So thusly, what we're looking at in the Winnie inscription or the Winnie inscription, matter of fact, let me look that up, right? Real quick. So folks want to say, oh, he's butchering the name. Let's do it real quick, man. You know, you gotta, they get real petty when you start smacking them across the head with stuff. They get real let's see here. Which one do we want to use here? Nope. Oh, come on, man. Come on. Y'all go in for a second. It's going to take me a second to get into this JSTOR thing. If anybody got any questions or comments?
I think he dropped off.
Somebody else dropped in the back. Let me let them in.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think he dropped off and came back in? Yeah. He dropped off. He just came back in. You know what? Here we go. Afro-Asian, indigenous black man. I'm going to put it in the chat. Indigenous black man. I just put it in the chat, man. That's a call-in number for you. But let's get back. Let's get back to our presentation here. And we was looking it up. Let me pull up the JSTOR article on this Winnie inscription. Let me go in it. Put it up real quick. We're going to deal with the Old Kingdom. Just let me pull this up real quick. Peace and blessings to you, fam. You live on the air.
What's going on, LDR, everybody?
Good. What's going on, Indigenous black man? Y'all let me know if y'all can hear him clearly. Can y'all hear him clearly? To the brothers on the panel? Good.
Yeah, I can hear him. I can hear him.
Thank God.
Good.
What's up, brother? What you up here lying about? You messing this all up, Yara.
Bring it to me, man. Bring it to me. Yes, sir.
At that time, it was the Hyksos coming from the north and the Nubians coming from the south. So they're not the Kushites.
They're not the Kushites.
No.
Okay.
They intercepted, messengers going from the Hyksos rulers to Nubia. And, thwarted their plan. So they were being attacked from the north and the south, brother.
So them being attacked from...
hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
I got B. Garfield and Uncle them up on this, right? You got the Stele of Komos. Tells about the whole battle. They was arguing that it never happened, right? This is 4 years ago, Yara. This is how long I've been trying to get the information out. But the Stele of Komos tells you about the battle. All right, you can look that up. Write that down, Elder Yara.
And so in the Stele,
okay.
And
then one more thing. Just you talking about Smash Rockwell and them. See, I got these guys out here regurgitating my info. You heard Jabari, you heard Inky, you seen it on his little presentation last time. He put up Johann Frederick Blumenbach and then eugenics. But can't none of them really talk about it and discuss it. They get it from my information, Yara.
I've caught them doing that. You know I have, and I mentioned it to you.
Oh yeah, they famous for it. But that's what I'm saying. See, we all gotta watch out for that. They steal your stuff. But somebody like me who don't get to talk, except for on but they hear me on Unbiased. They hear me on ISD, and they see my presentation. I think after I showed them where I got all this from. In 2008, I wasn't even in this community. So it wasn't none of these niggas talking about none of this. None of it.
Say none of it,
Dr. Joyce DeGrasse. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. The video I just did. The videos I did on Lions Den.
Okay.
About, how this transition from, Carl Linnaeus to Johann Frederick Blumenbach to Malthus to Darwin, to Galton, to Sigmund Freud, and to Edwin Bernays, who my next presentation is going to have a little bit on. And he's telling you out of his own mouth what he was doing. I've been doing this for years, but see, like I said, I'm not going to, I ain't trying to, it's not about me, Yara. I'm doing this for the people because I love y'all, man.
Yeah, no doubt,
and
man.
Y'all stop listening to these retards who won't come when I challenge them. Notice I challenge them. Do they step up to the plate?
Never, I haven't seen it yet.
Never.
I haven't seen it yet.
I got a video from a couple years ago where I beat Unc and Unbiased and Sosa, and Jeffrey, and all of them up. They didn't know about none of this. They talking about science. And I taught them about eugenics and all that. Margaret Singer, Sosa, he talking about Margaret Singer was good.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Unbiased was saying she was good. This is the people that you're dealing with.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts, man.
These are the people out here pushing the information. Now, if you look up Nubia.
Yes, sir.
If you just wiki Nubia.
Okay, I'm gonna do it while I got you on the phone. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it while I got you on the phone.
Nubia. And I've been telling them about Successful's one. I heard Smash Rockwell say it.
Talking about Successful the first?
Garfield say it after I taught it years ago to them. They kicked me off the panel because I was beating them up. They wouldn't let me call back in.
You said Nubia, right?
Yes, just look up Nubia, Wiki.
Okay, Wikipedia.
And see, what happened was Successful's one went down into Nubia, set up camp. I've said this 1,000 times. Set up camp and named the land Kush with the K. We're not talking about Kush from the Bible, even though we call them Hamites and Shemites and Canaanites. Where do these names come from, Yara? Ham, Shem, Canaan. Whose names are they, Yara? Descendants of Noah. They was calling Jesus people.
Yeah, I got Nubians.
Strong's G3526.
I got Nubian up. Let me see, make sure I got it up on the screen.
Okay. And you just read down the list. You read down the list. Because like I said, I could do this myself. But Sesostris I was the one who went down and named that land Kush. And that was in the 12th dynasty, brother.
You said Sesostris the first, right? That's what you're referring to?
Yeah, Sesostris I. 13th, it was either the 13th or 12th or 13th dynasty.
Okay.
So, that right there tells you that, they can't put it together. It's like they have strong delusions on them or something. I don't know what it is. But it's nerve-wracking. And they keep on hearing them run their mouth, with the misinformation, which is a weapon used. This is another weapon used from the beginning of time, lying.
Now, I'm going to read.
Merchandise.
Yeah. Now,
yeah. Merchandise.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Now, watch. Now, let's talk about. I'm looking at Nubians. I looked up Nubians, Nubians, Nubians.
Yeah.
I think it should be sharing on my screen. It is. So it says, in this article is about ethno-linguistic groups. The people of Uganda. It says see Nubians in Uganda, which is very interesting. Okay, for indigenous ethnic groups who inhabit the Nuba Mountains of South Kordofan state in Sudan, and Nuba peoples. The reason why Uganda is interesting to me, where this particular information will be placing Nubians today, Uganda, is that when the quote unquote after World War II, those quote unquote people who were in the internment camps, I should say that, when they were asked, what land they wanted what they wanted to go back to, right? They said they wanted to go to Uganda. They never said they wanted to go to Jerusalem or back to their homeland. They said, no, we wanted to go to Uganda. And there was actually a campaign to send them down into Uganda. And the reason why they were talking about sending these people back down into Uganda is because some of them claim that, according to their understanding, some of their ancestors from old was from this area, Uganda. But they was clear to y'all don't look like no Ugandans, right? So I'm gonna share that information one of these days. That's what they asked to go to. But let me read this. It says Nubian, Arabic, or Nilo-Saharan ethnic group indigenous to the region, which is now northern Sudan and southern Egypt. They originate from the early inhabitants of the central Nile Valley, believed to be one of the earliest cradles of civilization. In the southern valley of Egypt, Nubians differ culturally and ethnically from Egyptians, although they intermarried with members of the ethnic groups, especially Arabs. They speak Nubian languages as a mother tongue, part of the northern Eastern Sudanic languages, and Arabic as a second language. Neolithic settlements have been found in central Nubia region dating back to 7000 BC. In Wadi Hafa, believed to be the oldest settlement in the central Nile Valley, parts of Nubia, particularly Lower Nubia, were at times a part of ancient pharaonic Egypt, and other times a rival state representing parts of Meroe of the Kingdom of Kush.
You want to hit that?
You want me to hit Kingdom of Kush?
Well, I mean, like I said, see, you have this information that you can look up for yourself, right?
Uh-huh.
And like I said, I'm giving you the short, right? And remember I talked about Havilah?
Yes, I remember.
And that's the name of one of the, descendants of Adam and Eve, Noah, whatever you want to call it. And the land was named after them. Okay, just like the land of Canaan, just like the land of, the land of Ham. Mizraim is Egypt. Cush is Ethiopia. And what is it? Put. But all these names, are coming straight out the Bible, but they try so hard to cover up with nonsensical arguments.
Yeah, a lot of these names definitely come from the Bible, or we see them in the Bible. I don't know if I would necessarily say come from the Bible, but I will say that they are there in the Bible as mentioned that way. And that's because I tell people all the time that a lot of these early archaeologists, a lot of these early Egyptologists, they were using the Bible as a reference for historical value. Even the anthropologists, this early on anthropologists, they were using the biblical narrative as a guide because they actually believed it to be a history book. They actually believed that. And so, and they were successful in some of their findings based on the biblical narrative, right? Especially when we talk about Jericho and Ai, right? The city of Jericho and Ai, and different things of that nature, Sodom and Gomorrah. Some of these places they went looking for based off what they read from the Bible. Some of these places that the Bible mentions, they never thought existed. Even until recently, they're still finding places that the scripture mentions that they said was what they thought was only a myth in the Bible. But now they're finding these places to be absolutely historical places, right? So when you say they are getting these names from the Bible, they are correct. They are correct. You are correct in that, I should say. This is where they get this.
And like I say, now since you got it on Wiki, pull up the Stele of Komos.
Okay.
Stele of Komos. See, I'm just hitting them in the head. Look, y'all check out this. Look up Sesostris 1. SES.
Yeah.
GROSIS. Sesostris 1. Or Sesostris. And it'll tell you, but the Stele of Komos, it tells you of the fight.
Yeah, and see, I think that here. Sorry, I'm saying you fell off real quick. Go ahead, brother.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
No, I was just letting the brother back in. So when you again with this Stele of Komos, right? We know that the Stele of Komos gives the battle when he runs these Hyksos or these Hyksos apparently out of Kemet, right? This is what he attempts to do, right?
Well, not just you got to ask yourself, was the Nubians, like I said, because the Nubians were attacking from the south. It tells you in the Stele. I think that's where I got it from.
Yeah,
like I said, this is what I beat Garfield them up because they were saying, well, there's no writings about that Hyksos war, so you can't talk about it. You don't know.
Wow.
And I said, y'all never heard about the Stele of Komos? 4 years ago. Still ain't talking about it. And they might slide in there every once in a while. Just like Jabari and, like I said, Jabari and them, and Inky trying to use, and the Native Americans over there trying to use the Johann Frederick Blumenbach and Carl Linnaeus and all that. We can't put it together.
So real quick,
you take a little bit. You could take a little bit, but you didn't get the whole thing.
Is he able to hear me?
Go back up to the top, Yara. Go back up to the top. It says right there on the first one.
Hold on 1 second. I think Sarah.
It tells you the account.
Hold on, let me do this.
Of what was happening.
He should be able to hear you now, Sarah Sin. Hold on, go. Sarah Sin got a question for you. He should be able to hear you now.
So, are you maintaining that the Nubians didn't intermingle in Lower Egypt?
No, Nubia and Egypt were joined at one time. They were working together.
So I'm trying to figure out what do you
in the statement earlier that Yara read from Wiki, it tells you that they were once together.
So I'm trying to figure out what did you mean by saying that who were you referring to when you told Yara that they weren't Kushites?
Oh no, I said the people that they were calling the Hyksos. It tells you that there was a campaign coming from the north, right? The campaign was coming from the north, which was the Hyksos, and then the Nubians. Like I said, they had intercepted a couple of messengers from the Hyksos, trying to get the message down to. They had to go through Egypt to do it, So, like I said, Sesostris I was the one who named that land Kush down there. So that's a war way before that. Where Sesostris I had went down into Nubia, a pharaoh of Egypt, king of Egypt, whatever you want to call him, and had, beat him up and divided the land, basically calling one part of it Kush, the southern part.
Well, okay. I'm not too sure about the Cesseros naming Kush. I gotta look up on that. But what I am gonna say is that it becomes blurry when we start talking about who the Hyksos are, because like what we get from the transliteration, even though Yara is showing us an earlier translation, it's foreign rulers, right? So we don't know. We gotta start picking out exactly what foreign rulers are they talking about. So sometimes when they refer to the Hyksos, some of the Hyksos, right, like Apophis, right, they use the translation Asiatics. But when you look at Asiatics, it's actually retinue, right? So Chamos is calling Apophis a retinue, and a retinue is Assyrian. All right. So we have to clarify exactly who are they talking about when they say a Hyksos, because foreign ruler could be a Nubian also.
Right.
Just because we're calling it a Hyksos doesn't exactly mean it's automatically a retinue or somebody from somewhere else outside of Africa. And also, when that stele that you're talking about Chamos, and it talking about the war, when they talk about that interception of the letter, I think Chamos is saying that he intercepted it. His camp intercepted it. I don't think that's saying that Nubians intercepted it, because that letter that the Hyksos sent was supposed to go to the Nubians. That was supposed to go to the south, and Chamos is the one that intercepted that letter, not the Nubians.
Yes, that's what I was saying, brother.
Yeah, and so let me inject. Let me.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
You're right on that, though, brother. You're right. You're right on that. And like you say, that's just like when we say Negro land. We see it pop up again later on when they're exiling over there at the Inquisition, and they're exiling the black Jews out of Spain and Portugal,
right,
helping to create that Negro land. But like I said, that word was never it was Neger. It was Neger. And it tells you in Strong's G3526, if Yara wants to pull that up, Strong's G3526, it tells you, that it gives you the pronunciation over on the side. And then it also tells you the definitions of it means black or dark brown and Christian.
And I agree with you. I agree with you on that. But I think the term was Negas. Negas. I think that's the term that we looking for. I think that's the term.
Just pull it up yourself, Strong. G3526.
Yeah, I listen. I agree with that, and I'll pull that up. But I wanted to read something, because in this whole text, especially when you talk about you talked about Chamos and his encounter and his battles with the Hyksos. There is the
we gotta remember, he only reigned for like 5 years, bro.
Yeah, I got it.
They got his daddy's body. They found his daddy's body riddled with, war wounds himself. I can't remember what his name is, but then Amos took
second.
over.
I believe his name was Second Is it how you say it? Second Tare or second Senecretare? I'll look it up. But that's his father. Second Tare.
Oh, okay.
It's his father.
Yeah.
But I'll look. But again, in regards to Kamos and what he says about his battle with the Hyksos. Let's talk about what he says, because what is the name of the stele you gave?
Stele of Komos.
The stele of Komos, right? This is So this is what I'm gonna get ready to show you. What I'm showing now. Hopefully y'all can see it on my screen. It's called the Carnarvon tablet. It's called the Carnarvon tablet, and the Carnarvon tablet is an ancient Egyptian inscription in hieratic, recording the defeat of the Hyksos by Kamos. And let me get that for everybody. And that's what Alan H. Gardner, the defeat of the Hyksos by Kamos, the Carnarvon tablet, number 1, the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, volume 3, numbers 2 and 3, April and July 3rd, 1916, pages 95 through 110. And listen to what he says here on the Carnarvon tablet, right? Let me go down here to the contents of it. It says in the inscription, and this goes to, I believe, what Sarah Sin just brought out. And this is the whole, and I'm glad he said it the way he said it, because this is the premise that I'm trying to establish, that we have to identify who these Hyksos or these Hykakaksu or these Kashu or these Kushites were, because that's the terminology that we see them being used, right? So it says in the inscription, Kamos claims, in the translation by James B. Pritchard, right? By James B. Pritchard, he says, "Let me understand what this strength of mine is for. One prince is in Avaris, another is in Ethiopia, and here I sit associated with an Asiatic and a Negro." Now listen what he said. He says, "Each man has his slice of this Egypt, dividing up the land with me. I cannot pass by him as far as Memphis, the waters of Egypt. But behold, he has Hermopolis," right? He has Hermopolis, which is Upper Egypt, between Lower and Upper Egypt, right? He says, "No man can settle down, being despoiled by the imposts of the Asiatics. I will grapple with him, that I may cut open his belly. My wish is to save Egypt and to smite the Asiatics." So here he's telling you, again, this is what Kamos is saying, is translated by Pritchard, right? He's saying, this prince in Avaris, another's in Ethiopia. He said, and I'm associated with an Asiatic and a Negro. Right? So
they got the Asiatics posted around them.
Yeah.
They all over there mixing. Look, they all over there mixing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because you got to remember that Egypt controlled all the way up into what is it called? Lower Asia or Asia Minor.
Yeah.
You know, up into Greece and all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
And
these are different times where you're switching the power shift. You understand?
Yeah.
Going from one side to the other, y'all, right?
Yeah.
Back and forth. You talking about they ain't mixing, man?
No, they definitely miss. Now this is why I wanted to bring out.
I agree with the young brother. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It could have been some Nubians who jumped on the Hyksos bandwagon, and it could have been some Hyksos that jumped on the Nubian bandwagon. You know, I mean.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying, because this is why I wanted to bring out Chancellor Williams, because even in his book, and I don't know where I set my book now. I'm gonna have to come back on here and break it down. But Chancellor Williams, in chapter 3 of his book, when he deals with the Nubians, chapter 3 of his book, and the book is the Destruction of the Black Civilization, Chancellor Williams, right? In that book, chapter 3, he goes on to talk about how the Nubians, who took on the name of Egyptians but were not Egyptians, but took on the name of Egyptians, called themselves people of Kemet, right? And then they actually mixed with the Asiatics. They were reproducing with the Asiatics. So there was a group of people that this Hyksos and the Nubians were mixing together, right? Creating another group of people living in those lands. And this is why when we get here, I'm going to show you in the 16th dynastic period. Let me share this again. Why we get this gentleman right here. We get him right here. Let me show you. The Hyksos king of Pepi I, or who they called Apophis in the 16th dynasty.
There you go.
You see what I'm saying? And of course, and this is why I'm saying people overlook Clyde Winter's work when he says the Hyksos were Cushitic people that originated in the Nile Valley, which we just read, right? And he says they were from the Nile Valley, not the Levant or Anatolia, right? So he goes on to show, again, this is why you see the term ruler of foreign lands given to them by Gardner with using this symbol in N25. This is a later rendition of that same symbol, which was earlier done by John H. Breasted in N25, and he translated as what? You just mentioned it, Negro land. So we got to ask ourselves what our good brother Saracen was saying. Why are we getting these different translations now? Why take away Negro land and just say rulers of foreign lands? Would not Negro land be considered a foreign land at that time?
Hold on, right there. Hold on, Jara. In your presentation right here, brother, read the whole thing. Rulers of foreign lands, not Kush.
Right, rulers of foreign. Right, that's what Gardner. But see, what I'm saying is, Gardner translates that later after John H. Breasted first says this translates as Negro land.
And you have to see that the foreign ruler, the foreign land could have also been Nubia. Foreign land was Nubia too. The Egyptians. So we have to understand that they're included in that Hyksos title, not exactly them being Asiatic, but just being a part of that title, the Hyksos.
Correct. And so,
just to top this off, Yara, Ancestros, this is 3 dynasties before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got to remember that.
Yeah.
So we get a little get back. So they were battling back then 3 dynasties before this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, Sesostris went down into Nubia, split, beat them up, and split it up. You split it in half and call one side the southern side Kush, brother.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, we do have attestations.
Talking point. I'm bringing you to the Hyksos.
Yeah, well, we have
before. You gotta go ahead. You can't just start, right where right in the middle. You gotta go to the beginning where Kush started.
Well, this is what I'm saying, right? So we have attestations of Sesostris first being in the Levant. They actually have a carving that they had been misidentifying, and they were calling him Sesostris the first. But
Yara,
go ahead.
Just pull up Sesostris 1, brother. I'm not trying to be rude or nothing, brother.
No, this ain't rude. I understand people have. This ain't understand. We having a discussion.
You're a good brother, and you want to learn, and I don't like wasting time. See, because these niggas is long-winded, and I'm not. Go to Sesostris 1 and pull up images. It'll show you steles with his name all over it, brother. That's all you gotta do. You know what I'm saying? It ain't hard. It ain't hard. I showed you the stele of Komos, talking about the Hyksos War. And now I'm showing you steles about Sesostris 1.
Yeah, and I'm gonna show you.
It could be Sesostris 1 or Sesostris 3. They say that's what they say.
Yeah, Sesostris 1.
So
yeah, I'm finna share it right here. I'm finna share it right here.
Key talking points.
Yeah,
where they cannot go against what these talking points are telling you.
Right. And so this is Sesostris the first, right?
This is history. It is written down on clay tablets. So hieroglyphics, brother.
Yeah.
You have it there.
Yeah. So it says here he was aggressive in expansionist policies against Nubia.
Exactly.
Right.
And like I said, he's the one who created the name. They were, back then they were converting Christianity three dynasties later. I don't know how that works, but that's what it says in some of this, so there's a lot of information here, family.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing a presentation, because if I did, I would hit him in the head to the white meat easily.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff is right here for you to digest.
So again, with Sesostris the first, are you saying Sesostris the first is what in relation to the Hyksos?
I wouldn't say that he had any. He was the man back then, brother.
Right.
Egypt was the how you say, the shiznit. So wasn't nobody messing with him. Everybody was trying to, get in, like some of the new kings, like Alexander. He had to appropriate into the culture, because you got all these people around, got all this money, got all this wealth.
Right.
So you don't want to just you take them over, but then you come in and you use their ram horns or something, their symbol, put it on a coin and stuff like that. Try to appropriate.
Gotcha.
Like Arsinoe and
gotcha.
The Ptolemy, two brothers and sisters who got married and wore the crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt.
Gotcha. And I see exactly what you're talking about and dealing with.
Hold on, tell you one more thing. Sheffrin and Corey, they didn't even know what the Upper and Lower Nile was. I told them I think that everything started in the Upper Nile. You heard them say it was the cradle of civilization.
Yeah, they said it.
The Upper Nile is in Nubia.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
See, because water goes downhill. It's that hard, family. Water flows downhill. And when it gets to Egypt, and it splits off in all them fingers and goes into the Mediterranean.
The cataracts, yeah. Yeah. And so,
but they didn't even know the difference between upper and lower. And they over here having arguments about this stuff, man.
Yeah.
You see how what do you call it, nonsensical or insensical or whatever?
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. It dealt with the elevation of the
time, and like I said, that's why we gotta have faith, man. Because faith without works is dead.
No doubt.
These people don't have faith, and they're not producing the proper works. They're producing something.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think that
they got a stench to it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that what you're saying, it carries a lot of weight. And so, especially in dealing with Sesostris the first, he was definitely before the 16th dynastic period, but we clearly see that he is waging military campaigns against the Nubians. And I think that what Saracen is saying, and myself is saying, we're getting to who are actually involved or who make up this, what I'm starting to see now, believe now, is a conglomeration or an amalgamation of groups of people who make up Nubia, right? And that within that, these Hyksos or these Hyksos rulers were in that group of Nubians coming down the line by the time we get to Kamos, and then Amos, his brother, later on finishes after Kamos' death, right? And so we clearly see this continue. And the focus of this is to determine this conversation. So I appreciate your input and giving and putting some more meat on the bones to this conversation, right? So that we can get better understanding. I need you to come back on more. If you got to call in, you can call in. So you know what I'm saying,
right.
And definitely do it.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
and share your information.
To my craziness, but
hey,
like
man.
I said, brother, I speak truth. I don't waste time or
no
sin
doubt, no doubt,
to lie to a stranger.
no doubt.
It's not that important in my life.
No doubt, no doubt.
And I love y'all.
Yeah,
my
no
family.
doubt.
People, I want everybody to go to heaven. That's my problem. But like I said, we gotta keep our heads high and our grass low.
Yes,
and
sir.
Stop allowing these people to lie to you and take some time and do your own research, family, behind what they say. All right. I love y'all. And thank you, y'all, again. Peace, brother.
Hey, man, anytime. Love, peace, and blessings to you, man.
Keep up the good work, because like I said, I learned from you too, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, man. You always got some jewels to drop, man. So I appreciate you, man, for your support. So thank you, brother. Peace and blessings to you, fam. Yeah, no
Peace,
doubt. Peace. So again, shout out to not Afro-Asian, man. Shout out to our good brother, Indigenous Black Man, for dropping his science and knowledge on us today.
Indigenous Black Man.
So yeah, Indigenous Black Man. So again, but I think that going back to my brother Sarasin right here, I think he encapsulated exactly where I'm even trying to take this lesson or bring this information out to. Let's identify who these people are within these group of people we identify and often call Nubia or Nubians.
And as far as the groups that we could see, you know what I'm saying, that evidence gives us, you know what I mean? I think that's the retinue, which is the people that's coming from Syria, and the different tribes of Nubia. You know what I mean? At that time.
Agreed.
What would you say about Kush of Sumer and Kush of Egypt? Do you connect those two?
In a way, I do, but I'm still trying to figure out that. You know what I mean? Because I want to be very, very on point with that. You know what I mean? But it's definitely something there, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me get back into this next slide. It says, are the Hyksos African, Kushites, or Asian? It says, researchers have made it clear that the Hyksos included many different nationalities. This is what we've been talking about. Well, this is why I let my brother go, because he's always dropping jewels and evidence, but this is leading right to where we want to go now in this conversation a little bit. And dealing with this, it says so, and this is, I said, I'm basing this on Clyde Renner's research. I know some have called him a fringe scholar and different things like that because he goes against the grain of most what consensus of scholars talk about on this topic. But I feel like his information is important to really look into, right? So let's talk about this. So the researchers have made it clear that the Hyksos included many different nationalities. Again, an amalgamation, a group of many different people, ethnic tribes of people. So the Hyksos, according to John Bright in his work, A History of Israel, Westminster John Knox Press, page 60, and Robert Drews in his work, The Coming of the Greeks, Indo-European Conquest in the Aegean and the Near East, Princeton University Press, page 254, included Hurrians, Hattians, and that's why when he brought up Sistros I in Anatolia, in the Levant region in Anatolia, which is modern day Turkey, there's a carving. And I'll show this in I'll show this later on in my presentation I have about the Hittites, with the Hittites black. They have a carving there that they thought was actually to be Sistros I, but it's a carving in the Levant region of a king. He has kind of this Asiatic type Egyptian garb on. And so they thought that this was a Hittite king. They thought it was a Hittite king, but they've soon come to realize that it may possibly be Sesostris I down in that region of land in the Levant, right? So that's one of the controversies and questions now about this particular carving, and I'll show it. So, but it talks about the Hurrians and the Hattians being included among these Hyksos, right? in addition to Canaanites. This means that the name Amu was a generic name for Asians and did not denote a specific Asian tribe. And when we're talking about Asian, we're specifically talking about Asiatics.
Exactly.
Exactly. Go ahead, brother, if you want to drop some on it.
And that term, the Amu, that's like basically a variant of one of the terms that Sargon would use to refer to the West, going all the way towards Egypt.
There you go. Western Semites is what I call them. Western Asiatics or Western Semite people. And this is why when we just read in the Carnarvon tablet of Kamos, he talks about smiting the Asiatics. These are the people that he's talking about when he talks about when Kamos reads about this in that tablet inscription of the defeat of the Hyksos. He's talking about smiting the Asiatics. I like it's there. And my only question is all of this work that we hear day in and day out, dealing with Nubia here and Nubia there, how are you glossing over the presence of these people in this historical context and reference, right? Here we see another Egyptian king, Sehure, right? This is him right here, right? He's also to be considered a Hyksos king, but of Nubian stock. Let's continue a little bit. The Hyksos will call again Hykakatsu, right? Again, the world in ancient times, the ancient Egyptian world, by book, not Hibiru or shepherd kings, right? The Hyksos ruled from 1650 to 1550. The New Kingdom lasted from 1549 to 1292. During the New Kingdom, Egyptians used the name Amu as a generic name, as you just said, Saracen, as a generic name for the Asian or Asiatic. The term Habiru was an ethnonym for one of the Asian tribes, the Asiatic tribes. And we know if you look up Habiru, it is connected to the Egyptian term Hapiru, which is connected to the Hebraic term, or what we see the Canaanite term, what they use as Hebrew. It's there. There's no denying it, right? We do a breakdown of that on this channel, right? How the term Hapiru, and Hebrew is all connected. They're placing these people within the group of terms of these Amu.
So it's crazy. So is this a what stage are we in? What year are we in with this guy, with this Egyptian pharaoh?
King Sehure, let me pull it up real quick. I know I got it on my next slide, but I wanna look him up real quick. Let me put it up real quick. Here it comes really quickly. Let me pull it up. I don't know why this junk moving so slow. It won't even come up like that. Let me share this tab so y'all can see what I'm doing. Y'all should be able to see it. I'm just getting it right here. You open them up right here. Just don't look at them. Pharaoh Sahure. And it says he reigned for 13 years, 5 months, and 12 days in the early 25th century BC. So let's read about him a little bit right here. So Sahure, also Sahura, meaning he who is close to Ra, was a pharaoh of ancient Egypt and the second ruler of the 5th dynasty, circa 2465, 2325 BCE. He reigned for 13 years in the early 25th century BCE during the Old Kingdom period. So Hure's reign marks the political and cultural high point of the 5th dynasty. He was probably the son of predecessor, Ursakav, right? Who was a pharaoh of the ancient Egypt and founder of the 5th dynasty. He reigned for 7 years to 8 years in the early 25th century BC. During the Old Kingdom period, he probably belonged to a branch of the 4th dynasty royal family. And Queen Neferhetepes II was the wife of the ancient Egyptian king Userkaf, who was the first pharaoh of the 5th dynasty. She was the mother of King Sahure, Userkaf's successor, and she was most likely the mother of Merentebite, who was wife, Nefertaris. It says, and was in turn succeeded by his son, Neferkare. Kakai was the ancient Egyptian pharaoh, the 3rd king of the 5th dynasty. Neferkare was the eldest son of Sahure, with his consort Meretembite, was known as Ra Nefer-E. Before he came to the throne, he acceded the day after his father's death and reigned 8 to 11 years. So during Sahure's rule, Egyptia had important trade relations with the Levantine coast. So see, even at this time, who he's trading with in the Levant. Who is he trading with in the Levant? Right? So let me go back here. Right? During this particular time. And look where it says, when he talks about the Levant. Levant is an approximate historical geographical term referring to a large area in the Eastern Mediterranean region of what? Western Asia. And core territory of the political term for Middle East. So again, these people are dealing with Western Asiatics. Sahure launched several naval expeditions to the modern day city of Lebanon to procure cedar, trees, slaves, and exotic items. His reign may have witnessed the flourishing of the Egyptian Navy, and including a high seas fleet, as well as a specialized racing boat. Relying on this, Sahure ordered the earliest and attested expedition to the land of what? Punt. And who do we know occupied that land? The land of Punt. We know the Nehesi were in that region. It says, which brought back large quantities of myrrh, malachite, there it is, a little stone right there. There's copper or carbonated oxidized copper minerals, and electrum. And my man Smash Rockwell was talking about electrum the other day, talking about the Nubians producing electrum. So electrum is a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver with trace amounts of copper and other metals. Its color ranges from pale to bright yellow, depending on the proportion of gold and silver. It has been produced artificially and is also known as what? Green gold. So Sahure is shown celebrating the success of this venture in a relief from his mortuary temple, which shows him tending a myrrh tree in the garden of his place named Sahure's splendor soars up to heaven. The relief is the only one in Egyptian art depicting a king gardening. Sahure sent further expeditions to the turquoise and copper mines in Sinai. Right? So we know these people are dealing in these regions heavily. He also ordered military campaigns against the Libyan chieftains in the Western Desert, bringing back livestock to Egypt. Right? So clearly, we see these people. I think, let me see, somebody just either fell off or need to come back in. Let me see. This is my man Andrew, the student. There he is. I thought you got lost in translation, my brother.
Hey, how you living?
Hey man, can't complain, man. Can't complain at all whatsoever.
So this is a great topic, man. It's a great topic. I'm here for it.
Hey, I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad you're here, man. The people that I really needed to make this move is here, man. It's like I said, I didn't have a lot of information. I was just really positing questions and really going through it. So here's where we are, man. So like I said, it's an open panel, man. We're just gonna discuss a few things. And so we see we go back to this, right? Dealing with the gentleman here who we just read about, the Egyptian pharaoh, King Suhure, right? Or Sahure, right? The Hyksos ruled from 1650, the New Kingdom. Let's get back. We talked about the Amu being a generic name for the Asian or the Western Asians, more specifically. The term Habiru. Let me show that real quick. That the term Habiru, what term is connected to? Because I had to do this for my good brother Chris Harris. So let's see. Shout out to Chris Harris, man. MVP. All right. Let me put it up here. Because it's very important that we nail down some type of identification. Because oftentimes the people that we see going through this information, they have their own agenda, and so a lot of this stuff gets glossed over. But let me share my tab real quick in dealing with the identification of the Habiru, right? And this is from the Encyclopedia Britannica, right? And some will say that this is the judiciary source or secondary source, but we'll do this, right? So let's deal with that. So here it says in Palestine during the Mid-Bronze Age, right? In other words, it says Semitic, called the Habiru or Hapiru, or the Egyptians used the term Hapiru, right? The term Habiru, meaning outsiders, was applied to nomads, fugitives, bandits, and workers of inferior status. The word is what? Etymologically related to Hebrew. And the relationship of the Hebrew and from aforementioned Hyksos to the Hebrews has long been debated. But the Habiru term, let me keep reading here, right? People always trying to say, oh, there's no connection there and all that. Come on, let me read that. Let me open this up. I hope it opens up so I can read it. It's moving so slow. Here it comes. Right. And the relation is based on the usage of both what you see in ancient Kemetic use and in Hebrew language. You see the triconsonantal roots of these words, right? We want to read it there for the second time. It says, okay, here we go. It talks about these were probably introduced by the Hyksos, or they use the term here, and this is what I've been talking about all night. Asiatic Hyksos, Asiatic Hyksos, or Asiatic Hikakaksu, or as Clyde Winters talks about, and Chancellor Williams in his book on the destruction of black civilization, chapter 3, he also alludes to the fact that Hyksos is, or Hykaksu, or Kasu means Kush or Kash or Kush, right? So what they're saying is these Asiatic Kushites. This is what they're saying. These Asiatic Kushites. And we know that these Asiatic Kushites have some connection to what we call these Nubians or Panahesi. And this is why we went back into the biblical narrative that talks about Phineas, who was considered a Levite, possibly living in the land of Nubia, which is why he could have been called a Nubian, or simply because he actually was of the stock of the people of Nubia, right? One of these amalgamated groups that we clearly see that made up the Hyksos, these Hyksos people, or this group of Hyksos or Hykaksu. They also say possibly related to the Amorites, who secured control of northern Egypt. Go ahead.
And that's the thing too, right? So with the
I'm listening to you,
right?
Seraphim.
What'd you say?
Can
you hear me?
No, I said go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say
I can hear you.
As far as the Habaru, right? That's not just one group, though. It's different groups, right? And just like with Hebrew, like you could be a Hebrew, but that don't mean you're an Israelite. You know what I'm saying? So as far as Habaru, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? So just because you have Habaru, that's not one group, it's different groups of, you feel me, rulers that have their, you feel me, that have their followers. Exactly. And when you get to mixing them up with Hebrews or Israelites, we have to understand that just because you're a Hebrew doesn't mean that you're an Israelite. It just means that you're a part of that that amalgamation of group of people that they refer to as that term. So there was different groups of there was always different groups of Hebrews that weren't exactly Israelites.
Correct. 100%. And this is why I say, like I said, I love the way you encapsulated that statement. That these were a bunch of different groups of people. When we talk about how we're identifying these Hyksos, they could have there if they were outside of ancient Egypt or outsiders, or these are the Egyptians or the people of Kemet looked at them as outsiders, then they would refer to them as Abaru or Epiru, right? The same as they would Israelites, the same as they would Nubians, the same as they would Syrians, the same as they would of Hittites or Hattians or Horians. They would have looked at all these people, right, as Hykakasu or Hyksos, right? But there's a variation when you talk about Kasu, which is what I was showing in this presentation earlier on, based on Clive and his research again. He's postulating that term Kash simply means Cushitic or Kushite, right? So he's talking about a not just a part of the amalgamation of people, but he's talking about this group of people with the culture. Kushites had a culture different from that of ancient Kemet, right? Just like we know the Nubians did, just like we know the Assyrians did, just like we know all of these different groups outside, or Hebrew or Piru or Biru outside of Kemet was. And they tell you what we understand these outsiders to be: nomads, fugitives, bandits, workers of inferior status, which is where we would have put a group like the Israelites, because that's how they are described in the biblical narrative: workers of inferior status.
And with the Israelites,
go ahead.
Once the Israelites, once we get them going on their way into Egypt, right? You have to have Leah and Rachel, right? You have to have them before they get into there and create those tribes. So when you look at the first three children of Leah, right? The names, all these names kind of render some type of son code, right? So you have Reuben, you have Ray within Reuben, you have Simeon, which we know On was one of the priests in Egypt, in Lower Egypt, for the coat, for one of the coats, which was either Ray or Amun Ra. And then you have Levi, which we know that L could have been an R, which would have been Ravi. So when we look at them going into Egypt, right, and we understand that the history is actually telling us that there were sun coats in Lower Egypt at that time, right? And we look at Leah's sons' names, we could see where the intermingling and the mixing in, where the conception of the Israelites is going to actually happen and take place. Because I'm going simply off the fact that we have them going into Egypt, so they would have most likely been in Lower Egypt. And when we look at the sons, when we look at the names of Leah's sons, we get Levi, Reuben, and Simeon, and these all names kind of seem like they are theophoric to some sun code. They have Ray in it a lot, and we also understand that Moses was a Levite.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey,
so
who was that speaking right there?
Correct.
Sarah Sin is me.
Hey, you spit.
That's Sarah Sin. That's Sarah Sin. But hold on one second. I want to say shout out to my brother Shaka and Dulu on the panel, man. This is his first time gracing my panel, so I appreciate him being here, man, with his knowledge and wealth and understanding that he can add to the topic, man. So I really appreciate him showing up, man, and your commentary is welcome. So shout out to you, brother, for being here.
Peace. Tell me when I can speak, because I don't know if it's somebody else's turn.
Was you ready to jump? Was you ready to jump in, Andrew?
Yeah, I just wanted to give something quick. You know what I mean? Shout out to Shaka though. I rock with his content too. But no, the brother that was just speaking, man, I don't know if that was like a thought exercise, if he was just, you know, following logic, but he is on point. He is on point with science. When he's talking about the women and how they named their kids and stuff. We actually have scientific journals talking about the Hyksos women and how they intermarried with Egyptians, and that was kind of how they did the uprising. We look at it as an invasion, but they were actually like immigrants who kind of wandered in slowly over the years, and numbers went up, and a lot of their women intermarried. So what he's saying, I just wanted to just jump in there and say, bro, you spitting, you know what I mean? You on the right route with that. But I didn't want to take away from too much. But let's go.
Yeah, no doubt. Go ahead, brother Shaka. It's on you, family. Appreciate you being here.
All right, thank you. Well, peace to everybody. I cannot really see all the names because I'm driving, but the Yara's live stream came on my feed earlier, and I've heard a little bit. So I'm not sure if Yara, you were reading somebody, but you stated that Chancellor Williams, you name another scholar, I forgot the name. You said that Chasut, you know, from Heka Chasut, has something to do with Kush. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, that's based on Clyde. That's what I've been saying the entire presentation.
Yeah, hold on. There's a police. Maybe you can hear the. Okay, it's gone. Now I will. Can you say the name of the person who claimed that, please? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, it's like I said, I was basing it on Clyde Winter's work, just really going into what the work that he was showing. And like I said before, earlier presentation, in regards to this, he goes. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Clive Winters, that's a brother who said that he deciphered the Maoritic script, isn't he?
Yes, that's him. Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
absolutely.
you know, sometimes he makes what I call exotic claims. But I just want to say I'm not an expert, but I'm very familiar with the hieroglyphic, with the Medu Neter. I've been giving classes for years, and I can state, with confidence that the word Chasut or Chesed has nothing to do with Kush. This is something that I can say, we know comfortably. And whoever says that, it is just a mistake. It is just wrong.
And
also,
so again, as I was saying, in regards to. No, go ahead. I don't want to cut you. Go ahead.
Oh yes, thank you. And also, if people want to see Hyksos, maybe you talked about this before I got. Oh, you don't hear me? You don't hear me?
Nah, we hear you.
Oh, you okay? Thank you. Yes, maybe you talked about this before, but there is the painting from the tomb in Beni Hassan. And here we see some Hyksos, because we do have the word Hega Hasut. And we also have many depictions of Asiatics from ancient Egypt. We have plenty of paintings, and they are definitely not black people, but feel free.
Yeah. Actually, I agree with that.
So I do know that there.
My bad.
I would say there's different groups of Hyksos.
There's a delay somewhere.
I would say there's different various groups of Hyksos.
No, I think I rock with Chaco on what he just said.
Yeah, and that's what we were bringing out here.
I think it's a mistake when they say they think that they're Kushite. I believe that a little bit of that was lost in the translation. Sometimes we use the words for foreigners was put on Nubians as well as from other people. So sometimes those words can kind of cross over a little bit. But if we look at the actual drawings, if we look at the mummies that was found, they just found like 77 mummies. They just found some severed hands from like in last month in February, and they've been doing DNA on all that stuff. And they appear to be Asiatics. Like, and when I say Asiatic, I'm being nice. They're really Syrians. That's what my research showed. So I think Shaka's right that they were not Kushites or they were not Nubians. But that's just my piece. Big KMT.
Yeah, there were a group of Syrians, Hyksos, that came in the scriptures.
So I wanted to, absolutely. And so this is why I wanted to have Shaka's understanding on this hieroglyphic. I wanted to show it real quick. Let me show it real quick. Let me go to the presentation. And let me just go back.
I want to state something on the Assyrians, because you know that there's two types
and
of
get his
Assyrians.
understanding if he could see my screen. Right ahead.
Yeah, because the original Assyrians are Negroid, but there was another group that took over and was calling themselves the Syrians.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree with
yeah.
We clearly see that in the information.
See
so, Brother Shaka, can you see my screen?
Oh, well, what I can see is the text. Yes, yeah.
I can see it now. Can you see the hieroglyphic now?
Yes, I can see it now.
Tell us what that is, in your opinion?
Well, the first, I cannot read the text, but the first glyph, the scepter.
Can you tell us what it is?
Yes, indeed. The scepter, that's Heka. It has two meanings. It can mean magic, or it can mean ruler. And in Heka Hasut, that's what it means. Then the glyph underneath, which is repeated 3 times, that's Chesed. But in plural, it's Hasut. So here we have Heka Hasut, and I cannot read the text because I'm driving, it's a bit small, but I presume they translated it as foreign ruler. But usually that's, yes. Or maybe ruler of foreign land.
Right, ruler of foreign lands. So when we're dealing with, and so here, we know Gardner translates it as symbol. Alan Gardner, he translated it as symbol N25, and he says rulers of foreign lands. And this is according to Clyde Winter's information. He says what you're saying, that it says rulers of foreign lands and not Cush. Alan Gardner does say that when he labels this hieroglyphic as N25. But we have an earlier attestation of John H. Breasted that translates this same hieroglyphic symbol N25 as Negro land. So is there any, in your opinion, is there any weight to that, it being translated as Negro land? Could that not mean the foreign land that it's referring to, or is that now how it's done?
Well, it's the first time I hear that claim about Breasted translating it as such. But I would say that it is wrong. But everybody can contact Egyptologists. You know, it's very easy. People can just type a university's name and Egyptologist. You have their contact details, their email address, and ask them if they agree that it means Negro land. I'm very surprised at that. I mean, I'm not, you know. Is there any text you can show me where he said that? Like, can you tell me the book or the page? That's surprising to me. Because we don't even have the word for Negro or black. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm listening to you. Continue.
Yes. Well, in Hyksos, you don't have any word for Negro or black. Now land, you know, I guess maybe Hasut, you know, territory or place, but the word for Negro, I don't even know where he would have get that from. Now this claim, can you tell me where that claim was made, from Breasted, or who quoted that, who cited that?
Clyde Winters did, and so let me pull it out. I believe it's in the Forgotten Books. Let me bring it out right.
And if Breasted said that, I would say that's wrong. But I'm very surprised that Breasted would have said that. But who knows? I don't know it all. You know.
Yeah, and like I said, we're just up here building on it. Let me see. Can't bring it out. I'm trying to get to. Come on. I'm trying to get to. Let me find that. You guys could go ahead and pose your question while I'm pulling this up.
I have one for Shaka. I wanted Shaka.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you speak on how the word for foreigners was not only used for Hyksos, but it was used for sometimes Libyans, sometimes Nubians? You're a little more well learned on it. I don't want to misrepresent the word, so I would like to hear your spill on it.
But when you say the word foreigner, do you mean the word? Can you tell me which word you're talking about?
Again, I'm not as well versed as you, but I think it may be the Habaru, and sometimes it's actually Hyksos.
Okay, well, actually, what we call Hyksos, you know, obviously that derives from the Greek. That's the Greek rendition of what the ancient Egyptians called Hekahasut, you know. So Habiru, I heard that before, and I've heard people claiming that Habiru has something to do with Hebrew, because they kind of saw a phonetic similarity, but that's definitely wrong. I don't think there's a single Egyptologist that translates Habiru as Hebrew. So I wouldn't be able to say which location those Habiru will come from, but I think it's safe to say that there will be some Asiatics. They have many different words for Asiatics. The main one is Amu. You had also Setetiu, if I'm not mistaken, and there may be some other words that I don't have in mind. So I guess that's how I can answer your question. But if anybody has any other questions, then feel free.
Yeah, here, I'm getting ready to share my screen real quick, and hopefully you can see it. The text is pretty small, but I'm going to try to bring it up. Let's see here. I'm trying to share it real quick. All right. Let me know if you can actually see. The text is real small. So
yeah,
it's way too small. Can
you read it for me, please? Because I will not be able to read it because I'm driving. It's way too small. Yeah. But if you don't mind reading that part where he says I'm rested, that.
Yeah, and this is posted actually by Clyde Winters himself in his presentation. The Hyksos were Kushites. The Hyksos were Kushites, not Semitic speakers, right? Let me see. He does have a he has a topic on this. I'm gonna break it down. But what he says is, Clyde Winters says most researchers accept the contemporary meaning of Gardner's N25 symbol as rulers of foreign lands, not Cush. But this was not the first meaning assigned this sign. He said breasted, translated N25 as Negro land. If Gardner's N25 symbol meant rulers of foreign lands, we would read the Wenai inscription, that's W-E-N-I, Wenai inscription, as the following: His Majesty made war on the Asiatic sand dwellers, and His Majesty made an army of many 10,000s in the entire south, southward to Elephantine and northward to Aphroditopolis, Bucyrus, in the northland on both sides, entire in the stronghold, and in the midst of the strongholds among the Erthet rulers of foreign lands, the Mazoi rulers of foreign lands, the Yam rulers of foreign lands, among the Wawet rulers of foreign lands, and among the Kau or the Kau rulers of foreign lands, and in the land of Timah. And so that's what he says. Then he says, semantically reading N25 as rulers of foreign land is unintelligent. For example, Wawet rulers of foreign lands is incorrect because Wawet was the name of a nation, not a king. As a result, as he said, as a result, Ka or Kasut was used to identify the nationality of the Wawet, of the Kau, and other Kushite. He says, thusly, the inscription of Wenai reads, His Majesty made war on the Asiatic sand dwellers, and His Majesty made an army of many tens of thousands in the entire south, southward to Elephantine, and northward to Aphroditopolis, in the northland on both sides, entire in the stronghold, but in the midst of the stronghold, among the Erthet Kas or Kushites, the Mazoic Kas or Kushites, the Yam Kas or Kushites, among the Wawet Kas or Kushites, among the Kau Kash or Kushites, and in the land of Timah. In summary, meaning of Kash is Kushite. By interpretation of N25, Kashu is supported by classical scholars. The inscriptions of Wani and Sohori and the use of the term Kasu on the Hyksos sealings or seals and inscriptions generally. And that's directly from post from Clyde Winters.
Yeah, thank you for reading that for me. He sounds a bit all over the place, and if he hears me, I'll have no problem talking with him. At one point, if I'm not mistaken, he said or he wrote that Ka deals with the nationality of people, right? But we don't even have the word Ka. You know, the word that we have is Haset, which means a place like a foreign place. And once again, the plural gives us Hasut. So when there's some claim that the translation rulers of foreign land is wrong or something to that effect, I'm paraphrasing. We don't have ruler of foreign land without the Heka. Heka is what is translated as ruler. So if Clive Winters hears me, I don't have a problem having to talk with him. Who knows? I may be wrong, you know. But we have to be careful. Breasted, that was a while back. The scholarship has improved.
Yes.
It's like, for example, what's his name again? Burge. E.A. Wallace Burge. A lot of time I tell people, do not use Burge to learn the hieroglyphic. I'm not saying that Burge was bad. He was a scholar. He had a lot of knowledge, but the scholarship has improved. Now, I'm going to quote, and I really don't want to be long with this. There is James P. Allen. He's a PhD. He's in Egyptology. He's very famous. He's an American. And in his book, Middle Egyptian, if I'm not mistaken, he said that Burge is hopefully outdated. Now, there's another PhD.
He breaking up.
And he labeled her like she's just pretty, you know, basically like she has no skills. But anyway, he said that it's something like, you know, totally outdated, like something very strong. So it's best to stick to the current scholarship. But you know, I will leave it there. If anybody has questions, then feel free.
Yeah, I appreciate your build on that, and I agree that John H. Breasted would be definitely outdated based on the time when he was writing. That's why at the beginning of this presentation, before you came on, we talked about him writing his earlier writings and attestations to them and other persons whose works has been done way back, talking about at least the 1800s. So we know that the work would be considered outdated, and then going on to what Alan H. Gardner is talking about now, which seems to be the prevailing consensus. What Alan H. Gardner talked about in deciphering this as Hekakasu as rulers of foreign lands. My question is, what were those foreign lands? Is there any attestation?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question, and it's difficult to tell. I don't think we can tell exactly where. The location of those foreign land. But there's one thing I want to say, though. When you read from Clive Winters, I think at one point he said that Cash is Kush or deals with Kush. Now that I agree with. In the Medu Neter, the word is indeed Cash, and that's what people will call Kush. So basically, Cash is the area that we know as Sudan today. But Cash is not Haset. Yeah, feel free. Somebody's talking. Feel free.
Okay, got you. Because this is what he's somebody wanted to speak.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, I think the context is that the Egyptians that started using the word kas or cash, I think those Egyptians would have looked at the Nubians, like Nubia, as foreign. So that word cash would have been conceived as Kush, but meaning foreigners at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Do you get where I'm going? Because
I hear you, but I don't know if we can really say that, but it's a proposition because the first nome, maybe people have heard about nome is a region. So there were 42 nomes in ancient Egypt. And the first nome is actually what we call Tasseti, you know, and Tasseti is the area where we have, that we will call Nubia, you know. So basically part of southern Egypt and part of Upper Sudan. But basically the area that we know as Nubia. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Well, when you say Tasseti, right? Even within that name Tasseti, right? Tasseti, that could be that's not Egyptian. You know what I mean? So that's foreign. You know what I mean? So,
No, I disagree. You can look it up now. If you just put Tasseti, and probably not only Wikipedia, but and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but probably Encyclopedia Britannica will show you Tasseti. That's part of ancient Egypt. But feel free. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, I'm not saying that's. Well, when you say that's part of ancient Egypt, what are you saying? That's part of one of the nomes of the of Upper Egypt.
Yes, it is definitely. Yes, it is definitely a nome of ancient Egypt. So basically, it is part of Kemet, or as we say, ancient Egypt.
So
it would not be foreign.
That land wouldn't have been foreign to the to any Egyptian pharaoh.
No, it would not be foreign because there's plenty of other nomes, and all the nomes are part of the territory that we call ancient Egypt. So definitely, no, it's not foreign. And I don't think anybody said that it's foreign. I mean, a scholar.
I think that the Egyptians say that they're foreigners. I'm not saying that any scholars are saying. The Egyptians themselves are calling those people that are South foreigners.
Well, feel free to tell me where, which text so we can have a look. But they probably label people south, like down south, in Sudan, foreigners somehow, some way, but not the people from Tasseti, because Tasseti is part of the territory, So yeah.
I got
now
you.
Also, yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm gonna try to pull something up. That's just where I disagree with you at on there. That's just that.
Oh yeah. Oh, feel free. By all means, I mean, if you can put up the text. What I'm saying is, I doubt that the ancient Egyptians labeled some people from Tasseti as foreigners. I doubt that. And if that's the case, then I will learn something. But I heard a guy. I mean, I label him pseudo, but he knows he's wrong. Smash Rockwell, he said that Kush is not in Nubia, and he said that the Hyksos are fake. They made that up. Now, the Hyksos are not made up at all. We have plenty of attestation of the Hyksos, and I've already dealt with many scholars who said that, Kush is actually in Nubia. Encyclopedias would tell us that. However, I heard him say that very early on, some Nubians were labeled Hyksos. You see? I heard him say that. Now, I don't know what the text is. Now, who knows? It's a possibility, but what's for sure is that in the history of ancient Egypt, and people can ask scholars, the Egyptologists, when we talk about Hyksos, it's definitely those Asiatics. And once again, you have that painting from Beni Hassan, and we can see some Asiatics label Hyksos, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I appreciate both you brothers. And again, Brother Shaka, I really appreciate you coming on and educating us on some things and really sharing your knowledge. I will hope you would come back. I'm going to be doing more topics on this. So when you see me go live again, you're welcome to come on. As you see, you have unfettered access to share your commentary, man, because my objective here is to build. We all can learn from each other. I would dare not to say I know. I'm in more study and in depth with you when it comes to things of ancient Kemet and dealing with these hieroglyphics. And this is something that I'm looking to really further my education about. So I really appreciate you coming on here. But what I wanted to do is really go into Clyde Winter's presentation on the Nubian descent or the Nubian origins or the Nubian stock of the Hyksos of the Hyksos. We're going to get into that. He's going to get into that B'nai Hassan mural. He's going to be showing those Asiatics that we talked about as well in his presentation. So I'm about to share that right now. So again, fair use. You guys let me know if you have trouble hearing it, but I'm about to share that now. And then we're going to play that. And again, fair use. And this is Clyde Winter's presentation. It's called the Hyksos, the first Kushite dynasty of ancient Kemet. Fair use. Let me turn the sound on.
The dynasty of Egypt was not the first Kushite dynasty of the Egyptians.
Let me go back and start over again so you guys can hear.
Dynasty of Egypt. Many people have went to school and they've learned that the 25th dynasty of Egypt was ruled by Kushites. But the 25th dynasty of Egypt was not the first Kushite dynasty of the Egyptians. The first Kushite dynasty of the Egyptians was the Hyksos.
Again, fair use while that loads. Let me shout out to my good brother Chris MVP Harris, who has joined us on the panel. Shout out to you, fam. If you want to go in, man, if you've been listening, you want to say something, the floor is yours, man. Peace to you, MVP.
Are you really familiar with Clive Winter's works?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll talk. Yeah, we know he's considered a French scholar in pseudo. So we're just really just going into and really talking about why his information is disseminated and not part of the consensus of what scholars are saying. So we're just really breaking it down.
All right, cool. Yep. Now, as far as the Hyksos people, these people had Semitic names in the intermediary period. They spoke a Semitic language. Why are we saying that they are, in fact, Kushites? Where did we get that from?
Yeah, this is coming from Clyde Winter's work, and that's why we're talking about it right now.
All of it's coming from his work.
Yeah.
Okay. All of it.
Critiquing his work. Yeah, that's what I've been saying from the very beginning.
Okay. Nah. He got all that wrong. Wrong.
Yeah,
Wrong.
Yeah.
It's all wrong. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's what I was about to say. Yara, don't do this. I was getting ready to tell you don't do this.
No, we're talking.
I was going to say you don't do this.
We're like really getting to the crust of, like I said, all of this is his work, and why is he saying this, and why is he going into this, and we're trying to determine. So one of the questions came in: is he referring to Nubia as an amalgamation or a group of people, and he's segmenting out? And so when our good brother Sarah sins are like, yeah, is he talking about a specific group of these people? And then indigenous black man, and then good brother Shaka and Duke come on, and he sort of breaks it down. He's like, no, let's put this in its proper context. So we're trying to see exactly what he's talking about. Is he differentiating certain groups? Why is he making the statement? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because I was about to start. You know me, I was getting ready to start an academic war with you real quick.
No, we ain't jumping.
All right.
We ain't 100 stories.
All right. Because I know the hit would mean ruler. The hit, which was a sign of somewhat of a staff or something like that, that would mean ruler. Right, or foreigner, right? Yeah. Foreign rulers, but Kashut does not mean Kushite. I don't know where. I see somebody in there saying it does not mean.
Yeah, because what he shows is three different variations, and then he says it. One of that Kashut or is Kash, and I think in Shaka just said, well, he could see where Kosh is indicative of Kush or Kush. I could be mistaken.
Well, there were some people saying that it was somewhat of a linguistic. I know some people that say it's a linguistic error. What it would mean was quiche, people from the area of the east, or that capital city in Mesopotamia, because the Hapiru people are nothing but Amoritish people, Semitic people that came from that area. They're not necessarily Hebrews.
Correct.
Neither, because Hebrew means one who crossed over, and Hapiru means dusty and dirty. Now, could you say these people were the same people? You could call the Hapiru Proto-Hebrews, I guess. You know what I'm saying? If they existed, but
yeah, we were kind of saying that, but we were really talking about that Hebrew specifically really meaning outsiders, and these Hyksos or Hyksos would have been considered outsiders. So in an Egyptian eyes, it probably would have been considered Hebrew, right? Simply meaning outsiders, as they interpret them as bandits and foreigners or lower class workers or something in that terms, not specifically Israelites. We're not trying to prove Israelites on this show.
Well, let's say this right quick. When he says the first Cushitic rulers of Egypt were in fact the Hyksos people, Clive Winters gets this completely wrong. I'm going to explain why. This is during what we can say 1900 BCE. We could say sometimes during the 1900 second millennium BCE. All right, you had Nubia that cut itself off from Egypt at this time. It cut itself off from Egypt at this time. So, and they knew nothing about any Hyksos. Well, they knew about the new people ruling this area, but they did not. They in part did not have anything to do with the enslavement of the people towards the Mediterranean part of this world. They had nothing to do with that because it was Thutmose who went and reestablished political ties with the Nubians when he took over. Once he took over, he reestablished political ties with the Nubians. The Nubians never took responsibility for enslaving the Egyptians, but were they working with those people? Yes, they were working with those people. Yes. But that does not give Dr. Clive Winters' work any validity. So we got to be careful. We got to be careful with that. So I don't know. Sometimes he says things and he leaves a gray area there. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, that's all I want to say. I don't want to get show.
The same thing we see a lot of times with Dr. Van Sertima's work. They were kind of, postulating things in the same vein where they left a lot of gray areas and things. And so he gives a whole presentation as to why he goes into this and says this. And we're trying to figure out and fill in why is he making the assertions he's making and what are the holes here that we need to look into. So so that's what's going on here. But definitely, man. I think this is something that people really need to understand as far as dealing with that, because we did bring out a biblical passage at the beginning of the book of Numbers when it talks about Phineas, and he has this Egyptian name, and it says that Phineas is from the Egyptian name Pa-Nahesi, and so then we're translating that Nubia, which could have mean he was simply and saying he was an Israelite or a Levite living in the land of Nubia, which would have made him a Pa-Nahesi or a Nubian. Right, and not necessarily of the stock of Nubian descent or blood, because it says in the biblical narrative that he was the grandson of Aaron, a Levite. So more than likely, he was an Israelite living in that land. So I said that we would know, according to the biblical narrative, this is placing Asiatic or Israelite people in that region, or people of the Levant in Nubia during the time that this book is written. And so then where do we actually find that? Where can we find that there were actually people living in that land who would be considered proto-Israelites or could have possibly been identified as an Israelite, right? During that particular time. How did they get there? Why does the Bible place them there, right? Because that's the only thing that makes sense. Because clearly he's not a Nubian, but he's living in the land of Nubia, right? So why does it place him there? So that's kind of what we was, early on, and then we were transitioning. But it's all based on why Clive Winters is saying what he's saying, right? And a lot of people are disagreeing, but the consensus of scholars don't agree with him at all whatsoever. And so I really wanted to finish playing this again.
Oh no! Go ahead, get back to it. I'm gonna fall back. Okay, I thought you jumped out a window on this one. I got excited. I started tap dancing. I started tap dancing in my house. I ran upstairs, tap dancing in my bed. I got you now, Yara.
It ain't over
Go
yet,
ahead,
man.
bro.
It ain't over yet, man. Peace to you, though, bro.
All right, go ahead, man.
Yeah, but man, you're welcome to comment. Give your commentary anytime. But I'm gonna play through this a little bit. Fair use.
Many people have been taught that the Hyksos were Semitic speakers, but in reality, the Hyksos were not Semitic speakers. The Hyksos were Kushites. Who are the Kushites? In the ancient literature, the Proto-Dravidians, the Sea Group people, are called Kushites. Using boats, the Kushites moved down ancient waterways, many now dried up, to establish new towns in Asia and Europe after 3000 BC. The Kushites remained supreme around the world until 1400 to 1200 BC. During this period, the Hua, Chinese, and Indo-European speakers began to conquer the Kushites, whose cities and economies were destroyed as a result of natural catastrophes which took place on the planet between 1400 and 1200 BC. Later, at the 500 AD, Turkish-speaking people began to settle parts of Central Asia. This is the reason behind the presence of the Kesh element in many place names in Asia, e.g. Kashgar, Hindu Kush, and Kosh. The Hindu Kush in the Rappan times had lapis lazuli.
Again,
deposits.
fair use.
The Afro-Greek writer Homer alluded to the two Kushite empires when he wrote, "A race divided, whom the sloping rays, the rising and the setting sun surveys." The Greek traveler historian Herodotus claimed that he derived this information from the Egyptians. The Kushites were Niger-Congo speakers. The Niger-Congo speakers probably played an important role in the peopling of the Sahara. Drake et al. Make it clear that there was considerable human activity in the Sahara before it became a desert. The Kushites in history were characterized as users of the bow and the arrow.
If you're a business owner, then animated explainer videos are the best way to capture attention, get more followers, and drive more sales.
Drake et al. Provides evidence that the original settlers of this wet Sahara who used aquatic toolkits were Nilo-Saharan speakers. The authors also recognized another Saharan culture that played a role in the peopling of the desert. This population hunted animals with bows and arrows. They are associated with the Onanian culture. The Onanian culture existed or began around 12,000 years ago. The Onanians were members of the Caps population. There was continuity between the populations in the Maghreb and southern Sahara, referred to as Capsians, Ibero-Maurusians, and Nectoids. The Niger-Congo speakers are descendants of the Caspian population. Capsian people did not only live in Africa, they were also present in South Asia. Using craniometric data, researchers made it clear that the Dravidian speakers of South India and the Indus Valley were primarily related to the ancient Capsian or Mediterranean population. Lahovri Sastry maintained that the Caspian population was unified over an extended zone from Africa across Eurasia into South India. The original homeland of the Kushites or Niger-Congo speakers was probably situated in Saharan highlands during the Yunanian period. This is why the Egyptians often referred to the Kushites as a hill people. This is supported by the various meanings of Gardner's Egyptian sign N25. The N25 sign from Gardner's list of Egyptian signs, Kash or Kesh, meant Kush. From the Sahara, the Kushite populations migrated into the Fezzan, Nile Valley in Sudan, as their original homeland became more and more arid. The Niger-Congo speakers formerly lived in the highland regions of the Fezzan and Hagar until after 4000 BC. Originally hunter-gatherers, the Proto-Saharan people developed an agro-pastoral economy which included the cultivation of millet and domestication of cattle and sheep. This was the ancient homeland of Dravidians, Egyptians, Sumerians, Mandi, and Elamite speakers. We call this part of Africa the Fertile African Crescent. We call these people the Proto-Saharans. The generic term for this group in the ancient literature was Kushite. Origination of these diverse Kushite tribes in the ancient Sahara explains the analogy between the Basutolam languages as outlined in this figure. In the Egyptian literature, they were called Wawat, Tarseti, Shek, Kash, Kesh, and Tehanu by the Egyptians. The Niger-Congo inhabitants of the Fezzan were round-headed Africans. The cultural characteristics of the Fezzanese were analogous to the C group culture items and people of Tarseti and Wawat. The C group people were the Proto-Saharans and Niger-Congo speakers who occupied the Sudan and Fezzan region between 3700 to 1300 BC. The inhabitants of the Fezzan were called Temehu. The Temehu represent the Proto-Niger speakers. The Temehus were organized into two groups, the Tehanu in the north and the Hissi in the south. A Tano personage is depicted on an Amrathian period pottery vessel. Some Tehanu wore a pointed beard, phalanx sheath, and feathers on their head. The Temehus are called the C group people by archaeologists. The central Fezzan was a center of C group settlement. Kolak discussed in detail the presence of C group culture traits in the central Fezzan, along with the cattle during the middle of the 3rd millennium BC. The Kushites lived in Tarseti and Wawat. Europeans, when they first translated the Egyptian language, referred to Kush as Negro land. The first mention of Kush in Egyptian text was made by Winnie, an Egyptian administrator. Below is the Winnie text. In the Winnie text, Wawat kings were called Hekekashut. Hekekashut today is translated as kings foreign. When Europeans originally translated Winnie's inscription using Gardner's Egyptian word list, the original meaning of Kish was king's Negro land. This interpretation of Shesh, Kash, Kish was an Eurocentric interpretation of N25 because there was no such place as Negro land. So the actual meaning was kings of Kash. The term Haki-Kash, because it related to Wawat rulers, have been translated as rulers of Negro land. The Egyptian elements were added to Kash to make it plural and denote a nationality. The Winnie inscription makes it clear that the name Kash was made up of 3 N25 signs from Gardner's list of Egyptian signs. The N25 sign also represents Kish, which equals Kush. This means an N25 represents the name Kosh for the ethnonym Kushite. The meaning of N25 as Kush and Kushite is obvious in the Hyksos scarabs, where we see N25 as the people the Hyksos kings ruled. The Kushites lived in Asia and Africa. Thus, Strabo wrote that those who are in Asia and those who are in Africa do not differ from each other. Everyone who's written on the Hyksos acknowledged that they were a mixed group of Asians that included Hurrians and Hadeans. These people were not Semitic speakers, though. These people may be Kush. They appeared not to wear beards. The Hyksos included both Kushites, Kush, beardless, and Asians with beards. The Asian Kushites settled Palestine and Anatolia. Some of the major Anatolian Kushite tribes were the Kashka and Hadi speakers, who spoke a non-Ai language called Katili. The gods of the Hadic people were Kashku and Kush. During the 5th dynasty of Egypt, 2563 to 2423, namely during the reign of Sahura, there is mention of the Tehanu people. Sahura referred to the Tehanu leader, Hati Tehanu. These Hatu may correspond to the Hatti-speaking people of Anatolia. The Hatti people often refer to themselves as Kashkas or Kaskas, which is the same as Kush. The Hatti were probably members of the Tehanu tribe. The Tehanu was composed of various ethnic groups. One of the Tehanu tribes was identified by the Egyptians as the Hatu or Hautiu. The Hatti people may be related to the Hatu, one of the Delta Tehanu tribes. Many archaeologists believe that the Tehanu people are related to the Sigru people. The Hattic language is closely related to African and Dravidian languages. The Hatti controlled the city-state of Kusara. Kusara was situated in southern Anatolia. The Kaska are remnants of the indigenous Hadean population, which was forward northward by the Indo-European Hittites. But as late as 1800 BC, Anatolia was basically settled by Hadeans. The Hadeans forced from southern Anatolia were among the Hyksos who conquered the Egyptian Delta. The Hyksos ruled from 1650 to 1550 BC. The New Kingdom lasted from 1549 to 1292 BC. During the New Kingdom, Egyptians used the name Amra as a generic name for Asians. The term Habiru was an ethnonym for one of the Asian tribes. It is clear that the Habiru and Hekikash were the same people. They would have the same name, given the fact that the New Kingdom began at the end of the Hyksos dynasty. But alas, they didn't. The Hyksos were called Hekikasut, while the Asians were called Am and Habiru. During the 5th dynasty of Egypt, I'll repeat, Sahui mentions that there are no people. Sahui referred to the Tehanu leader as Hatti Tehanu. These Hatti correspond to the Hatti-speaking people of Anatolia. The Hatti, Hurrian people, often refer to themselves as Kaskas or Kaska. This means that during the Old Kingdom, the term Hekakasu did not mean rulers of the foreign countries as assumed by most Egyptologists. The term meaning of Hekakasu was really rulers of the Kushites. If Hekikasu meant rulers of foreign countries, it would have been applied to every foreign country. But foreign kings were usually referred to as Wira, kings instead of Heka, which was reserved for Egyptian rulers, as noted by Camille de Bassi Dyson in Foreigners and Egyptians in the late Egyptian stories. It does not matter if Kamos called the Hyksos Amra. The Hyksos rulers refer to themselves as Heki, ruler, i.e. Hekikasut, ruler of the Kasut Kushites. In the Egyptian text from their various kings like Apophis made it clear that they were rulers of Kushites. Apophis maintained the tradition of the Egyptians during his rule. He is credited with encouraging his scribes to copy the priceless Egyptian texts including the Edwin Smith Surgical Papyrus, the oldest known surgical handbook, the Rye Mathematical Papyrus, which explains Egyptian mathematical theory,
I'm partnering up with Adobe to show you guys some of the new features they just released in Adobe Express. In my videos, I love to use transitions, and they just added some new transitions to the Adobe Express video editor. Now, simply by hitting the plus button in between two scenes, you can add a push or slide transition to your video. Another feature that's super helpful is they've added TikTok on the content scheduler. So now you can plan, preview, and schedule content and publish your videos directly to TikTok from Adobe Express. I love Adobe Express because they're always listening to users and figuring out ways to make making content easier and more efficient. So if you haven't already, make sure you go check out Adobe Express.
When you write, your tone influences how readers respond. With Grammarly, just highlight your text and type how you want to sound. Get your message right every time. Download it for free at Grammarly.com.
theory, and the Westcar Papyrus. These texts would have been lost to mankind except for the foresight of the Kushite pharaoh Apophis. Egyptian Kash corresponds to Kashkas or Kaska, the name of the Hadeans. The Egyptian term Hasut has three different elements: the ethnonym Kas, Kaska or Kush, plus the U, which is usually transcribed as W, which was the Egyptian plural marker, while the Egyptian T was a suffix that signified land or people. The Old Kingdom rulers of Egypt called the Kushites Hakikasut. Since the Hyksos were called Hakikasut instead of Habiru, proves that they were given this title because they were Kushites, like the Kushite people living in Kerma and in Nubia. Finally, stop making the false claim that there are no Egyptian texts where the Hyksos call themselves Kash, equal Kushite. The Egyptian textual evidence include the primary evidence of the Turin Royal Canon, where the Hyksos were styled Hekakasut, the same name they called other Kushites in Nubia during the Old Kingdom. During the New Kingdom, the Kushites were still being called Kash, the same name the Hattins called themselves, Kushka. The primary contemporaneous ancient Egyptian literature documents show that the Hyksos called themselves Kash, which corresponds to Kash, the Egyptian name for Kush. The first four rulers of the Hyksos called themselves Hekakashut on their seals, and a monumental door jamb from Avaris. This is primary contemporaneous ancient Egyptian literature, epigraphic documentation or evidence indicating that the Hyksos called themselves Kash. The Hyksos worship Ram. Hyksos kings were proud of their Kushite origin. In the Hyksos seals, the kings wrote their names, followed by the Hekakash, kings of the Kushites, they called themselves. These seals are primary contemporaneous ancient Egyptian literature documentation indicating that the Hyksos used his name to illustrate their Kushite ancestry and relationship to the Nubian Kushites. The meaning of Kash has to be Kush because they were, why would Hyksos refer themselves as foreign kings when they were native to the land they ruled? The Hyksos were Kushites, not Semitic speakers.
So there you have it. Does Clive Winters make a compelling case? Does he make a compelling case? Right. So again, as I stated, as I said, as we can see, this is pretty much Afro Asiatic says shout out to Clyde Winters. Again, we can see, Afro Asia, and so I'm sorry, indigenous black man going in. Peace and blessings to you, fam. You definitely be dropping that science and dropping that information on us, man. So we appreciate it. Hey, so hey, man. So that's all right. We're gonna conclude this, man. That's all I wanted to do, man. Come on, talk about this. Doing some study, reading things, questioning what we see as terms of this information in regards to we see how can we show some connections historically, right? And so again, peace and blessings to all those who came through, indigenous black man, brother KOT, Sarah Sin, who definitely dropped some knowledge on us today. Also, Shaka and Dugos, thank you for coming through and gracing us with your presence, man, breaking down the hieroglyphs for us, man. Peace and blessings to you as well. Shout out to Afro Asiatic. Who else? Shout out to Chris Harris, MVP, who came in.
Peace and blessings, family.
Yeah, so again, peace and blessings to you, man. Thank you, brother KLT, for that. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. I thought this would be an interesting topic, and yeah, we're gonna build some more and further on these types of topics, man, and things as well. So, shout out to the family, man. Again, shout out to Chris Harris, MVP, everything that he's done, and man, that is it. We are going to call it an afternoon, man. We're gonna call it an afternoon. So peace and blessings, man, to you all. I hope you learned some things. I hope you got some things that you hadn't understood or known before, or something now we can actually study. So again, shout out to you, fam. Peace and blessings. The Nubian Hyksos or Hikakaksu. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Peace and blessings to you, family.
When I was there, the Father raised me up, you made me know, and all my sins He never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs when He gave me up, they heard Him take up on that cross, they had to rank them up. New Torah, new Torah, new Torah, I don't know. Forward that Torah, Spirit keep blowing in me, new Torah, new. God is good, I know He's great. Watch out for the right train. When it ain't nobody knows about the believe I'm watching. They entertain the angel, but they don't understand. They stuck up in their pride. Everybody wanna be a man. I'm surrounded by prisons like my tribe in the prison. Just a life. Culture like that on the ceiling. I'm waiting on the proper system. Eyes on the meal. To pay my money and love. Regard your feelings. I speak that spirit cause I breathe it. New Torah movement, they might become the freedom. They see the place on the ground, they holler freedom. And I was there to Father radio, he made me know. And all my sins, he never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs, but he take me up. They heard them take up on that ground, so he had to rank them up. New Torah movement, I don't do it, I don't do it. Oh, with that story, the story, they keep going to me. Hey, New Torah movement. I put my life up on that line like the fish so they don't have them know. I get them hooked, I think they feel me though. They took my heart, I had to rhythm slow. Moving where the river go. No, this not the river go. I just make them feel the flow. But I don't think they really know. Got on my homework, got my sword, it's time to really go. They walking dead, man, this really go. Make you lose your head if you really know. Tour by blow. Believe that, believe that. It's up my heart if you need it. Believe that, believe that, believe that. You never feel, you know what we at. When I was in the Father radio, he made me know. And all my sins, he never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs, really take me up. They heard him take up on that ground, so he had to rank them up. New Torah, new Torah, I don't know. Oh, with that story, the story, they keep going to me. Hey, New Torah, boom, boom. Guilty. Turn my mic up. Eddie Yara, you told him move. Tell him take from the ground. Allow. When I was there, the Father radio, he made me know. And all my sins, he never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs, really take me up. They heard them take up on that ground, so he had to rank them up. New Torah, new Torah, I don't be doing. Going with that toy, we keep going, hey, New Torah, yeah, it's good, I know he's great. Watch out what he got tricked. When it ain't nobody knows the Father, they believe I'm watching. They entertain the angels, but they don't understand. They stuck up in their pride, everybody wanna be the man. I'm surrounded by visions, like my tribe in the prison. That's a life, the truth, vultures like thighs on the ceiling. I'm waiting on the promises, eyes on the medium. Tempted by money and love, regard your feelings. I speak that spirit cause I breathe it. New Torah movement, they might become the freedom. They see the tanks on the ground, they holler freedom. When I was there, the Father raised me up, he made me know. And all my sins, he never gave me up, no. And all my wrongs, really take me up. They heard them tanks up on that ground, so he had to rank them up. New Torah, I don't do it. Going with that Tory, we keep going, hey, I put my life up on the line like the fish know they don't hear me, no. I get them hooked, I bet they feel me though. They took my heart, I had to rhythm slow. Moving where the river go. No, this not a river boat. I just make them feel the flow. But I don't think they really know. Got on my homework, got my sword, it's time to really go. They walking dead, man, this really go. Make you lose your head if you really know. Tour about to really blow. Believe that, Guilty. Yo, turn my mic up. Eddie Yara. New toy move. Tell them tanks on the ground. Allow. When I was at the father raised me up, he raised me up. And all my sins he never gave me up. No. And all my wrongs really take me up. Then hear them tanks up on that ground, so he had to rank them up. This new toy